Call to order the Thursday, June 18th, 2020 business meeting, and ask our County Administrator, Gary Schmidt, to please take the roll.
Yes, first I'll start with our staff support today, Commissioners. We have Mary Rathke, Clerk to the Board, Kathleen Rastetter, County Counsel, and I also want to recognize the other staff that's on the call each week, and I haven't done that. So first, Christina Twilliger from the Board of County Commissioners Office, and from Public and Government Affairs, Dylan Blaylock, Rich Marvin, and Garrett. Thank you all for your support. Now to the roll call. Chair Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Humberston.
Here.
Oh, with that, please join me in a pledge of allegiance. Are we not going to bring a flag? There we go. All right, ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we are holding this meeting virtually. If you joined us on the Zoom app for this meeting and you are interested in providing public comment, we'll promote you regarding how to do that, or prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. You will have an option of providing your comment to us live. Alternatively, anyone can send a comment to be read during the citizen communication portion of our meeting over email. Just send it at any time during the meeting to ClackCo News at Clackamas.us. That's ClackCo News at Clackamas.us. Be sure to include your name and area where you're emailing from. And just for the public, we have 13 public hearings today. We're going to take a break in about 90 minutes. And if you are going to comment on the public comment portion, you might want to call back perhaps at 11:30 or 12 o'clock. Otherwise, you're going to be on the phone a long time. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Gary.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bernard. And yes, you have a very full agenda today, Commissioners. We'll get started with a COVID-19 update. We have Nancy Bush, Director of Disaster Management and the Incident Commander for the Emergency Operations Center, and Dr. Sarah President, our Clackamas County Health Officer, to present. Go ahead, please.
Great, thank you, and good morning, everyone. So I'm going to do a brief update of what's going on here in the EOC, and then we'll go into phase 2 right after that, just immediately following. So today in Oregon, there are 6,218 positives, 183 deaths, 178,132 negatives. Clackamas County has 526 positives, which is up 44 since the last overnight, basically. We have 20 deaths, which is up 6, and 17,307 negative. Multnomah County has 1,598 positives. That is up 79, 68 deaths, 37,919 negatives. Washington County has 928 positives, which is up 52, 20 deaths, and 23,897 negatives. There are 85 hospitalizations in the state, so that also continues to climb. So some of the things we have going on in the EOC, we are working to provide some face coverings and hand sanitizer for small businesses here in Clackamas County. We're working out the details right now on how we're going to get that out and what their criteria are for those businesses. We are working on a new donation website, which is going to be available probably early next week. And what we're doing is connecting those that want to donate with our community-based organizations. And the community-based organization will be able to put on the website what their need is. And so if someone wants to donate, they know what that they need in particular. We have done a large push of PPE, which is personal protective equipment, to our fire districts this week to ensure that our EMS community has what they need for PPE. Public health is working on 6 long-term care facility outbreaks. 2 of those facilities still have some extensive testing out. So right now they have more than 110 cases combined and 7 deaths related to those outbreaks. The Oak Grove Fred Meyer has no new cases reported at this time, and Oregon Department of Agriculture has conducted a site visit there. We're also seeing an uptick in other infectious diseases, which is really important to note here. So those upticks also require attention from our public health staff. So as those go up, the more our public health staff becomes stretched. Our behavioral health Go teams had 3 events yesterday, and I believe they have 2 today. Our PIOs are working on the face covering campaign and encouraging everyone to wear their face coverings for the public. They have provided media release, of course, after the governor's announcement yesterday. And we are reworking our website so that it's just time to do that with new information, some things that are going on. So it's going to be reorganized and hopefully easier for our public. And the EOC provided assistance with reopening the county buildings to the public on a limited basis, which begins next week. So let's talk a little bit about phase 2 and where we are there. And Dylan, if you'll please bring up the criteria for me. Okay, so these are the indicators that we need in order to go into phase 2, of course, which the governor's office has put together. And you'll notice that there is a new Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington County line here. That is a brand new line. So that is the region and where we are in the region. So you see there we have 3 that are not being met in the region, which is the trend in percent of tests that are positive in the last 7 days, percent increase in new cases in the last 7 days, which is 62%, and it should be under 5. And the percent of cases not traced to a known source in the last 7 days, which right now is 48%. So Clackamas County is down toward the bottom there of your screen. So now we are not meeting 2 just here in Clackamas County. The percent of increases in cases in the last 7 days, which is 46% here. And then the percent of cases in the last 7 days, 7 days with follow-up within 24 hours is down to 90%. And we here in our public health staff are really investigating why that number is 90%. And we do think that there's some training issues with a lot of new people that are coming on and doing contact tracing, but we are investigating that to see if we can find out why that it has dipped from 98% last week to 90% this week. So thank you, Dylan. Going from here, of course, yesterday there was a lot of information that came out from the governor's office. One of the things that she announced is the Tri-County would be going into phase 2 together. And on Friday, the governor is bringing Multnomah County into phase 1. Face coverings also are she is requiring starting on Wednesday of this next week in the Tri-County area, as well as Marion County, Polk County, Hood River, and Lincoln County. And as directed on Tuesday, we here at the EOC put together a letter. It's a very simple letter about phase 2 and reopening the Clackamas County. You directed us to do that on Tuesday, and we did continue to do that and did put that together. And I believe that was sent out to everyone this morning. So we do have the letter. I know that we have a lot of discussion through this period and trying to discuss everything that's been happening in the last 24 to 48 hours. Dr. President is here with me today, and we are prepared to answer any questions. Oh, Jim, you're on mute.
I want to clarify something you just said, and I think it's a little bit confusing, that we're going to be brought into phase 2 together. That is true, but we are all stuck where we are now, which is in phase 1.
That is correct.
So we are not going to phase 2, at least for 21 days. But we did vote as a board to send a letter and an application for phase 2 to enter phase 2, which we were going to send in this week, this Friday. And the question is, we as a board voted to do that. Do we want to continue to do that? The governor probably won't look at it, but do we want to continue to do that? So who, Sonia and then Paul?
Thank you, Chair Bernard. The governor answered our question, gave us an answer before we submitted a letter based on factors that are beyond Clackamas County and really looking at things regionally. So if we do send a letter, and I know our staff worked really hard to do that letter, but things just change so quickly, I would suggest that we say that we are ready to move forward as you will allow, basically. I think one thing that I'm happy about that, we talked about at our last meeting is wanting a stronger message from the governor's office about wearing masks indoor public spaces and a better public relations campaign. That obviously is happening right now, but it's also happening with a lot of what's the word I want? Somebody help.
Consternation.
Consternation from members of our public. So I just think things have changed. If we do want to send a letter, and if we just say, hey, we're ready when you're ready, but not, because it makes us look like we're not seeing the big picture. And Dr. President, you can probably answer this. I don't know which news source I heard this from, or what call I was on, that said that recent models, if things continued as they are, that there would be 1,000 cases a day within not that far into the future. Is that correct? Something dramatic.
Yes, yes, thank you. I don't have the actual model in front of me or the numbers, but the predictions for sort of reopening did include an expected increase in cases. And the way it's looking right now is that increase in cases is happening faster than ideal.
Yeah.
And again, it's all about the capacity of our healthcare systems that we do need to protect.
And given that new information that we didn't have on Tuesday, I don't think that any of us would want to be promoting a public policy that could result in the dramatic increase of cases as is being modeled, unless I'm missing something. So.
All right, Paul?
Well, to Commissioner Fisher's last statement, I think it's about context. So yesterday morning, Jim and I participated in a meeting with the Clackamas County Business Alliance, and I went over the then chart that Nancy just displayed, but it was a different chart because it was just updated yesterday. Nancy, could you provide me a link to that new chart?
So Commissioner, it actually hasn't been updated yet. You're looking in the right place. OHA just hasn't updated it. So what you saw was a PDF.
Okay, do you have the entire PDF that shows Multnomah County on it?
Yes, and Dylan, can you bring that up, please?
And if you could actually send that to me as well. I'd love to see where Multnomah County alone stacks up, because I saw the joint and I saw the Clackamas County, but.
Yeah,
They're going to continue to provide Clackamas County separately. You know that? That was a concern Paul and I had.
I'm sorry, Chair, I didn't hear your question.
So see on the chart now, we do have Clackamas County separate. Are they going to continue to do that, or are they going to just combine them?
As far as I understand, they are going to continue to have the county separate as well as the combination. They'll have both.
Great.
So could you scroll down to Multnomah County, please? Okay. So they're not meeting 3, and we're meeting 2 of them. So thank you for that, Nancy. And I'm hoping that, I couldn't find it on the website this morning. So what I'm seeing, you just explained it. So I'll look for it, but if you could send me the link where you think it might be or whatever you can, but I want to, I look at this often and I use this actually use it with the CCBA yesterday morning. But getting back on the topic, thank you, Nancy. Getting back on the topic, I think when we discussed this on Tuesday, realizing we wanted to see the numbers, that we wanted to get our application in, and so that when we were determined to be ready by the rules that were set, where the goalposts were at that time, that we would be ready to go. And that's what the letter was composed for. And I think we should send the letter. And as if I'm going to dig deeper, but I understand that Washington County yesterday voted 3-2 to go into phase 2 and not accept the changing, and I'll get the language, but not accepting the governor's change in her policy. My concern is Washington County has done a pretty good job actually of reducing their rise of the numbers comparatively where they were before. They seem to be, for a while there, for a long time. I'm talking in the last 60 some odd days. Multnomah County has not really been able to get theirs completely under control. So my concern, again, I'll say it again, because I said it a few weeks ago, my concern is that, under this new scenario announced not even 24 hours ago by the governor, that we're suddenly can't move without moving together as 3 counties. What if Multnomah County continues at the status they are, not being able to tamp down their numbers? That puts Clackamas County and businesses at a severe disadvantage. That is unfair. And I'm stunned that the goalpost would be moved. I've been working in good faith with the rules put in place, but to have the rules change suddenly is completely unfair. I feel for the businesses and I feel for the employees. I feel for the people that are trying to pay their bills. And I'm not saying that today we're ready, but to be locked down and perhaps for months, okay, because of one county can't hold it together is not fair. I'll say, and then have Marion County, which has far larger numbers than us, okay, gets allowed to go into phase 2. We're just as connected to Marion County, even more so than we are to Washington County and Multnomah County to some degree, okay? Interstate 5, Highway 99, Highway 213, those run through Clackamas County, they run through into Marion County. We are just as connected. So I don't see how Marion County can be allowed to go into phase 2 and not be lumped in. And I think we should be independent. This, like the better we perform, the more we get punished. It's just not fair. And I'm going to prepare a statement at the end of the day about that. And I will be submitting that statement wherever I can.
Okay, Ken?
Thank you. I have a question. Do we have an idea of how many, since we are in a region, how many hospital beds do we have available for COVID-19 patients? And what is the current occupancy of those beds? Because the whole point of the lockdown was to slow down the spread so as to not overwhelm the hospital system, not to prevent people from getting the disease, because the reality is it spreads pretty easily. So the fundamental question is, what is the capacity currently of empty beds to take care of COVID-19 patients if necessary? That's my first question.
So, Dr. President, I have some of the bed up.
I'm trying to get an accurate number, but if you have the right now.
I have the statewide information, so you may have more specific for the region, but I did, hospital capacity for adult ICU beds, there's 168 available.
Currently. So with the...
I'm sorry, pediatric, there's 76. And we have 791 ventilators, and that is statewide.
Okay, so
I have the region numbers as well. Excuse me.
So how many people have moved into these hospital beds in the last week?
Those are the ones available. So that means,
Understood.
okay. Oh, I know we have 85 that are hospitalized now. I'll have to look to see what the numbers were last week.
I have, as of June 12th, there were 78 COVID positive admits, 12 on vents, and available ICU beds were 53. Again, that's a week old. I don't have updated data for this week on that.
And that's
So-
regionally? I'm sorry, Ken, that's between the 3 counties?
That's the hospital HPO region 1. So that is the 3 counties plus,
Columbia, Tillamook, and
Oh, okay,
thank
I
you.
was just checking. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm surprised it's that few.
Well, that is my point. Again, the purpose of the lockdown was to slow the spread and not overwhelm the system. It does not appear that we are overwhelming the system. Consequently, I believe we should send the letter in. I also think we should send some sort of commentary to the governor, maybe under separate cover, that we object to the changing of the rules for our county, and at least make our, to use Sonia Fisher's word, our consternation known. And I'm not interested in making a big public foofara about it. I don't think that's appropriate nor helpful with the governor's office. But I do believe that we should let our concerns be known as in terms of us being lumped in with Multnomah County.
So Martha, Paul, you guys agree? Send the letter?
I'm okay with sending it. I just want to make 2 quick comments. The virus doesn't know any boundaries. You got to realize that. We think artificially that there's a boundary here. There isn't. I think that we should send a letter, and I think that we should express our consternation. I would just caution us to watch our tone.
Yep.
And I would caution us to please get some more public. I would really urge the governor to get some more public, TV
PSAs.
or whatever it is out there, PSAs, because that's part of the problem with the consternation. It's got to be framed. We don't have the resources to frame it in the size and scope that needs to be framed statewide. So if they could just help with that, that would be huge.
So I did talk to her about that yesterday. They said
Oh, good. Okay.
they are working on it and do plan on more PSAs out very soon. Washington County did tell her that they had a 3-2 vote. She didn't really care. The fact that I offered to build a wall and the first case in Clackamas County actually was a worker in Clackamas County who lived in Washington County. There is definitely a tie, but I agree. I think we should send her a letter. So Sonia, you're up, and then Paul, and then Ken.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are communicating with information. As Commissioner Schrader said, a virus knows no boundaries. There are people that are really looking at this and really looking at the data, and they're experts. And I don't know, because I'm not one of those experts, but I can almost guarantee they're looking at travel patterns in the region and why these decisions are made. And I honestly, at this point, without more information, don't feel comfortable saying, hey, we want to do this alone, because I don't want to put the people that live in Clackamas County at greater risk than is necessary. And if you look at the numbers that Ken was just asking Dr. President, it's like, okay, it doesn't take long. We know a certain percentage of COVID positive cases are going to end up in the hospital, and we don't really have that much capacity. So if you're talking 1,000 cases a day increase, it's not going to take long at all till we're like Italy or, I mean, it just gets out of control, and we've seen it. And I personally don't want to be part of that. I do want us to submit a letter to say we are ready when we want to open as quickly as possible. We're doing all we can. We're part of the solution, but to just go in fighting mode with the governor, I don't support that.
All right, Paul?
Yeah, well, I don't think that I agree with Martha and Ken about the letter and adding language about our consternation and expressing our disappointment. So I don't think that's a fighting or any belligerent or suggest any language that's belligerent. But I think we need to make it perfectly clear that this is a disadvantage that our folks can't get out of. Now, as far as travel patterns, just look at I-5 in the morning. You know how many people are going in and out of Marion County and the Clackamas County every day? It's bumper to bumper. Same goes to Columbia County. I have friends that work in Portland out of Columbia County, out of Hood River County, believe it or not. So there are no boundaries. But we shouldn't be penalized when we're doing a good job. I mean, we're actually taking away an incentive, frankly. I'm concerned about that. I think the other thing, just from a public relations standpoint, and I respect everyone's right to protest. I respect the First Amendment, but there's a public relations problem right now when people are limited in their ability to circulate, to use the parks, to open their businesses into another phase, whatever it may be. And the same token is that in downtown Portland, in Multnomah County, they're protesting every night, right? And sure, lots of them are wearing masks. They're not social distancing as much. Some are, but it's a public relations problem. I think we need to make sure that we create and incentivize our citizens in that social public contract we talked about, but it's hard to do when we don't have control of another county. We just don't have that control. We as messengers can do that here in Clackamas County. The other thing I wanted to say, is that yesterday at the District 8 meeting, Jim, you were not part of that, but I went out of the CCBA meeting into the meeting, the other one, District 8, and I shared my consternation with the fact that Washington County got a check, COVID relief check. Multnomah County got a COVID relief check. The city of Portland got a COVID relief check. They're helping their businesses with those monies. What do we have? We have no money. We didn't get a check, and we still haven't got the check. We've been asking for the money. So we're at even a further disadvantage.
So I actually
stand up for this county. I want the letter sent.
So I actually said that to the governor. I said, the problem here is that you're combining us with two counties that got millions of dollars. And what did we get? Nothing.
Okay.
Well,
I want that money piece incorporated in the letter as well, please.
Okay, so next is Ken and then Martha. And we need to move on. We'll be here all day.
I will make it quick. When I stayed for part of the AOC meeting, but it was so garbled I had to leave because you couldn't understand half of it.
Yeah.
But I did a very brief and quick pitch. I think Clackamas County needed more money. We need it faster. We need it without strings attached. So those are the three things for Clackamas County. And more specifically, the OHA needs to have somebody who actually knows how to talk to citizens instead of just technical language and medical language that the average citizen glazes over on and doesn't understand or care about. Their communication skills suck, in a word. That being said, I think Martha is dead on right that the tone of our discussion with the governor should be very respectful, make the point, but it should not be a public fight. I think there's nothing to be gained for Clackamas County by in any way, shape, or form taking some sort of public vote that embarrasses the governor. That would just cause the governor and her team to just dig their heels in more so. So that's counterproductive. We want to do this in the most respectful way possible.
All right, Paul, we do need to move on, but Martha and then Paul.
I just want to say, do remember the virus knows no boundaries. We're relatively speaking pretty well prepared, but there is uncertainty at the level. There's been a lack of consistency at the state level. I don't think it's our lack of consistency. But I do agree that it seems to be all over the place about what phases we're moving into. So one of the things I would say is, knowing that this virus knows no boundaries and borders, what we object to is not cooperating and making sure people are safe, but when the goalpost keeps changing. On the other hand, nobody's experienced this before, really. We're kind of, and we're politicians, we're not medical experts. So we have the tension of, those businesses really pushing to be open because they're afraid they're going to go bankrupt, balanced with really knowing that this virus can take off like a wildfire that we've never experienced before. And so far we have been relatively good in preventing that from happening, I think. But I would call and just say, I would also make sure we say we understand why there's some inconsistencies, but to say we need consistencies as local governments and we need funding, okay, as a local government. If we are part of this region, this is an equity issue. We need equitable dollars. So
Show me the money.
I won't say anything else. So there we go. Okay.
That's what I told her, but Paul?
I move that we send a letter to the governor for the phase 2 opening request when it's timely or when it's proper to let us open, expressing our consternation about the changing of the goalpost issue, including language about, by the way, we didn't get no COVID relief dollars. The other 3 counties did. And renew, it's already in the language, but renew the request for public messaging that we discussed on Tuesday. So
Second.
That's my motion.
It was 2 counties and 1 city. So it's been moved and seconded to send the letter as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh, Gary Schmidt, wait.
I just want to clarify, you're asking for a single letter with all these topics. And so not submitting it today, but rather getting a draft to you that you'll see next week.
No, today.
Okay, so you will not have a chance to see it again. You'll let staff use the feedback you provided today. Is that correct?
Well,
Right.
there ought to be opportunity to at least view it.
You are not meeting again till Tuesday. So how would you like to do that?
Now,
I have a
I'll let you
question.
guys know that unless I see it, I can't substitute my politician perspective for those of health officials. So I won't agree to just send the letter without viewing it first to make sure that we aren't being proactive but cautious at the same time. So I won't be a yes on this. I don't think it's urgent that we send this right now. I think that we can review it Tuesday. I think it's important that we what is truly what we want to say from Clackamas County.
I'm okay if we send it today as long as our PAs review it and they're allowed to edit it.
Yeah, but Sonia's not, so.
I'm not. So, I mean, it's up to
Okay.
you guys. If it's 4-1, it's 4. I just cannot. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I just don't feel comfortable. There is reasoning behind what the governor did, and I don't know what it is.
Well, then she ought to explain it.
All right,
She
so
ought to give us the
let's
data
move
that
on.
supports that decision.
Ken?
Yes. Is there any reason we couldn't have the letter prepared sometime today, late in the day, have it emailed to us, and then we could send a thumbs up or a thumbs down back to staff, and then it could go out first thing tomorrow?
No,
We don't need to wordsmith the heck out of it.
No.
we can't do that.
So an option, commissioners, is you could approve the application to phase 2, which you've already seen a draft of, and we can send out in 5 minutes, and then do a second letter with all the other topics you raised and have that for you to review. This is going to be a 4-hour business meeting, so we could write it and bring it back to you before the end of this meeting today. We can offer you that, or you can do it Tuesday
So let's go ahead with the motion and then bring it back before the end of the meeting.
with a single letter.
Single letter.
Can you do that, guys? Nancy? Dr.
We
First?
will do our very best to do that.
All right.
Actually,
Sure, I
Nancy,
have people listening right now working on it.
it's not you, Nancy. The policy advisory team's going to take the lead on this.
Oh, the policy advisors?
Yep, you can review their draft. Yep.
Okay.
All right, so there is a motion to send a letter, including those amendments. So please poll, who's polling us? Mary?
That would be me.
Okay,
Okay, Commissioner Fisher.
So I'll abstain until I see the letter.
Okay.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
aye. All right, next, so that's that item.
We will,
Yay.
we will bring a draft to you before the end of this meeting, so we'll have to take a short break so you can review it and you can vote before you conclude business today.
Okay.
All right, so, then anything else? Gary, did you have an additional?
I
COVID
do.
update?
First, do you have any questions, any more questions for Nancy or Dr. President, Commissioners?
Thank you for putting up with us.
All right.
Thank you.
So Nancy, if you'll stay on just for a second. So my updates are, Commissioners, I did sign 2 contracts on your behalf under the COVID-19 emergency declaration. I brought them to you at your work sessions this Tuesday, June 16th, where you formally ratified them there. But for the record, I would like to read them for the public and to put in these minutes of this meeting. Those 2 contracts were both for the Disaster Management, Health, Housing, Human Services, and Public Health Divisions. First, an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and Oregon Health Science University for COVID-19 testing. The amount is for $50,000, which is from state funding, not general funds. Second, an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and the city of Lake Oswego for COVID-19 testing. The amount is for $30,000, which is also from state funding, no general funds. So again, you already ratified this. I'm just stating it for the record. Thank you. And then finally, my update, Commissioners, as you know, our public buildings, the Public Services Building and the Development Services Building are reopening to the public this Monday, June 22nd. Not every county department will be open, however. So our staff has been promoting this on the county website and through social media and the press on what is open and what is not. But we encourage the public to please call first before you come to the buildings. But most services will be open for public service this Monday, June 22nd. We will be following all social distancing and cleaning protocols to protect the public and our employees. With that, that is my update. Do you have any further questions on COVID for me or Nancy, Commissioners? Seeing none.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
So I'll announce that the board will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority Board for the next item. And also introduce our Housing Authority Commissioner, Ann Lindstrom. Ann, I see her there in Hawaii again. Anyway, with that, I'll ask the clerk to read the Housing Authority. Well, Gary, I guess you do that, but I'll say it anyway. Ask the clerk to read the Housing Authority consent agenda by title.
Okay, we have 2 items. Resolution 1946, approving the Housing Authority of Clackamas County's fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, and in the matter of writing off uncollectible accounts for the 4th quarter of fiscal year 2020.
Thank you. Does any commissioner want to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Ann? You're on mute. There you go.
All right. I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved in a second that we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda. Any further discussion? Mary, please poll us.
Commissioner Lindstrom,
A,
Commissioner Fisher,
You're on mute now, Sonia.
Sorry, I thought I said aye and then muted myself. Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. And with
Point of
that,
order, Mr. Chairman.
what?
Point of order.
Yes.
I wasn't asked to vote.
Oh, Ken.
Oh, Commissioner Humberston.
Aye.
Now, the vote is unanimous, and thank you, Ann, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And I announce that the board will now adjourn as the Housing Authority Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the item. And Gary, what is that item?
Yes, next, commissioners, is a board discussion item, a resolution condemning violence and racism directed at Black, African Americans, and all people of color. Commissioners, you have discussed this at your work session on Tuesday, and you approved a draft resolution, which is before you today. And this is an opportunity now for you to either make any final edits or to approve this resolution.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution and request that Commissioner Savas, the author, be allowed to read it.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any amendments? I heard that there was some being considered. No?
we amended it the other day.
Commissioner Fisher.
Sonia. No, there's, go ahead, Sonia.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bernard. I did want to mention, we had our meeting with the LEDIC, the Leaders of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and Betty Berkson got back to me, and she actually got back to all of us and sent a letter and asked for a change, of which, sorry about that. Here it is. An edit to the second paragraph. She had suggested that we revise that sentence to say, whereas the United States, State of Oregon, and Clackamas County has been guilty of committing acts of oppression against Black and African Americans, and urgent progress must be made to achieve racial justice. And
So you're taking the 400 years out because that wouldn't be true of the state.
right.
Yeah.
So took out the 400 years. Gary Schmidt actually helped draft this. If you all saw her letter, she just talked about how much she appreciated us all getting together and having our meeting, and that including the state of Oregon and Clackamas County is more in line with the spirit of our conversation, given our commitment, our recognition of the issues and our commitment to move
Could you
forward.
repeat that, please?
Sure.
that line?
It's for the second paragraph, or the second whereas, comma, the United States, comma, state of Oregon and Clackamas County has been guilty of committing acts of oppression against Black and African Americans, and urgent progress must be made to achieve racial justice.
Got that, Paul? All right, is the motion maker good with that amendment?
If the author is, I am.
Yes, and maybe,
You want me to email it to you, Paul?
yeah, email it to me so I can read it, because Ken asked that I read it. I don't have that language in front of me to read verbatim, so I couldn't write it down fast enough. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
And Martha, are you okay with that amendment?
Yes,
Okay. As soon as Paul gets it, well, first, I guess, please
I don't
poll.
think so.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
the unforgettable Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
That's good, Mary.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries. You have
I've had a
the,
lot of adjectives applied in the past, but that's the first time I've had that one.
Paul, do you have it now?
Yeah, I do. So,
Okay.
so I'll go
Please
ahead and read
read
it if
the
everyone's ready.
Yep.
So a resolution condemning violence and racism directed at Black, African Americans, and all people of color. Whereas we are shocked and appalled by the horrific actions leading to the George Floyd's death, and we stand with his family, community, and his country in a call for justice. And whereas the United States, the state of Oregon, and Clackamas County have been guilty of committing acts of oppression against Black and African Americans, and urgent progress must be made to achieve racial justice. And whereas recent incidents of violence directed towards Black, and African Americans is an outrage, and whereas these acts represent a blatant disregard for the dignity and sanctity of human life, and whereas the Black and African American struggle highlights the historic and unconscionable racism that exists against people of color, and whereas too many Black, African Americans, and people of color in our country live in fear of losing their lives because of the color of their skin, and whereas our nation's future well-being relies on a public system that confronts systemic bias, institutionalized racism, and supports efforts to ensure that Black, African American, and all people of color thrive in the communities where they live. And whereas Clackamas County has a shared core value of equity and is committed to respecting every individual's right to dream and their history and cultural heritage being celebrated. And whereas Clackamas County has a shared core value of care in that we develop inclusive and welcoming environments for all people. Now, therefore, the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners do hereby resolve as follows. Clackamas County Board of Commissioners and all of its staff join with America in sharing its anger, shame, and sorrow about the intolerable violence directed at Black, African Americans, and people of color. 2, Clackamas County Board of Commissioners condemns the violent and disrespectful treatment of Black, African Americans, and people of color. Our organization does not and will not tolerate nor accept in any way treatment of Black, African Americans, or people of color that degrades their dignity or disregards their human life. 3, Clackamas County Board of Commissioners calls on all elected officials and all government agencies to recognize the value and contribution of the lives of Black, African Americans, and all people of color to remove barriers to greater equality. Number 4, Clackamas County will review all of its policies and ordinances for any discriminatory impacts and practices and encourage other jurisdictions to do the same. And 5, Clackamas County Board of Commissioners will engage in listening and learning opportunities with communities of color to learn of their experiences to better help in improving policies and practices that include but not limited to law enforcement, our justice system, economic disparities, education disparities, and land use and transportation policies that displace communities and low-income families disproportionately. As of this day, 18th day of June 2020, Board of County Commissioners hereby. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've asked that all our signatures be on that, and that is what is going to happen. So with that, thank you very much, Paul. And Sonia, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bernard. I just wanted to thank my colleagues and our staff and members of our community, especially our Leaders, Equity, and Diversity Council for all of their thoughtful input. And just a couple other reflections that have come to me from folks that have been so kind to share their thoughts. You know, it's been a month since this horrific murder of George Floyd, and we all have been on a journey of awakening, each and every one of us in America and even across the world. A few things that we can't forget in this month, that there continues to be deaths of African Americans. We have seen in the news that there were 2 African Americans that were found hanging in trees that were initially ruled suicides and are now being looked at and being investigated. Those were Malcolm Harsh and Robert Fuller. And there were also, I don't know if folks know about this, but there were 2 African American trans women that were murdered within the last month. And that is Rhea Milton in Ohio and Dominique Rem May Fells in Pennsylvania. Time magazine did an article about them and the horrific racism and violence against Black trans women. And we can't forget the Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta as well, African American, who was killed since George Floyd. So we have much work to do. And with our awareness, our commitment, our continued commitment to educate ourselves and to work together, we will make progress. we will absolutely make progress. And I just wanted to thank everyone. It's an honor to serve with each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Well
Um,
said.
Thank you. Well, with that, we're moving on to some public hearings. And Gary, I'm turning it over to you.
Yes, Chair, we are now entering the first of 13 public hearings, all related to the budget. And Christina and Mary will help bring people in and out for this. The first is a resolution adopting the Clackamas County budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. Elizabeth Comfort, Interim Finance Director, will present.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. First, I want to thank the county and the service district budget committees, directors and elected officials, staff for their excellent work on the proposed 2021 budgets during this challenging time. The resolution before you requests adoption of fiscal year 2021 budget for Clackamas County. This budget was approved by the Budget Committee, which is comprised of the county commissioners and 5 citizen volunteer members. The committee held public meetings May 26th through May 29th. During these meetings, the committee heard presentations from directors, elected officials, received public testimony, deliberated, and then approved the budget. The budget process complied with the requirements of Oregon local budget law. The fiscal year 2021 approved budget summaries for the county budget and service districts have been posted on the county's website, along with notices of today's Board of County Commissioners' actions and public hearings. In respect to the Clackamas County budget for fiscal year 2021, 3 specific actions are recommended to be taken today. Adopt the budget as approved by the Budget Committee in the amount of $892,167,337. That includes $804,520,158 of appropriations. The remaining is $87,647,179 held in reserves. Secondly, we want to categorize the permanent rate taxes and the local option tax as falling under the general government limitations for Measure 5 purposes, and the levy for general obligation bond indebtedness as excluded from that limitation. And thirdly, impose the county's maximum permanent tax rates. $2.4042 per thousand of assessed value in cities that have 24-hour police patrol services. $2.9766 per thousand of assessed value in all other areas of the county. 0.2480 cents per thousand of assessed value in the county for public safety via a local option levy. And $5,319,000 for the debt service on general obligation bonds. However, our work on the fiscal year 2021 budget is not finished. Given the uncertainty of revenue and service level impacts due to COVID and the need to continue towards general fund budget sustainability, staff is committed to the following: ongoing budget monitoring and recommending supplemental budget adjustments as needed to reflect any changes in projected local, state, and federal revenues driven by COVID impacts. Monthly for at least the first 6 months with the Budget Committee, including the 5 public members, to apprise of any changes in the financial condition of the county and necessary budget adjustments. Report on progress of Finance Department initiatives, including updates to the county's financial forecast and financial policies, and implementation of the OpenGov budgeting software. And finally, have ongoing discussions on efforts toward achieving a sustainable budget heading into fiscal year 21-22. With that, I respectfully request adoption of the fiscal year 2020-21 budget for Clackamas County. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any clarifying questions?
No.
No? Well, with that, we'll open the public hearing and ask Dylan Bladelock of PGA will moderate this portion. Dylan?
Great. Thank you, Chair Bernard. I'm Dylan Blaylock with Public and Government Affairs. I'll be coordinating public comment for all 13 public hearings today and later on for general comment. Before we begin, to all attendees for all of these public hearings, if any attendees would like to provide a comment specific to that public hearing we're on, you need to indicate so by utilizing the raise hand feature on Zoom. If you're on the phone, I do have some phone call-ins and you want to give a comment again to the specific public hearing that we are on, you can hit *9 and that lets us know that you have a comment to relay. It will be that way for all the public hearings today. And with that, we'll get started. If you have a comment related to this specific public hearing, adopting the Clackamas County budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, you can go ahead and raise your hand now on Zoom, or you can hit *9 if you are on the phone. And Chair, I also do have one email related to this specific public hearing, as I give individuals a quick chance to raise hands on Zoom. Seeing none, I move to the email. It is from Jan Lee, who identifies herself as community member of the county's budget committee. As a member of the budget committee, I want to share with the county's citizens how much effort the commissioners have put into this budget, as well as the commitments of staff in bringing us substantial input in these difficult times. This budget is a placeholder as we do not yet know what losses in income may occur as state and federal budgets are set in the near future. I look forward to working with the other committee members monthly to accommodate updates to keep our budget in balance while serving the community's needs. And last chance for any Zoom comments or on the phone. Again, raise hand or *9. Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for Clackamas County as presented in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the actions and adopt the 2020 and the 2021 budget for Clackamas County as presented in the resolution. Any further discussion? Paul.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to first thank all the volunteers and budget committee members for their taking the time out to participate in the budget process, and also want to thank our staff for the hard work. My comments today should in no way be a negative reflection in any which way to our staff who prepared this. I do want to tell a little bit of a story, so please indulge me for a moment. I'll be as brief as I can, but I know it's going to be a long day, but this is the most important one, most important budget we have today. In the budget year 18-19, 3 years ago, we were presented a budget, and in there was basically a proposal to put away some monies to open some jail beds. And the administrator at the time stated that we don't have the money to do this now. It'll take a few years, and if the finances go correctly, and our picture gets brighter, we can perhaps open those jail beds in 3 to 5 years. That was the message from the administrator. The board or the budget committee, however, said, "Oh, let's do it now." And I had mentioned during that budget committee meeting that I had reservations about the forecasting. I had reservations about our ability to do that, and a lot of unknowns with all of the increases that we had coming. Anyhow, that though my pleas were not heard, the board actually went ahead and actually said, "Do it now." We didn't have the money at the time, and I knew we didn't have the money, and it was the advice of the administrator not to do it. But the budget committee voted to do that, and so we built ourselves what I felt, or compounded a problem that I felt, was that we were in. I was convinced we were in an unsustainable situation at that very time. So the budget was approved, and it was just a matter of months later where staff said the forecast was wrong, and we're actually basically approximately at that time, I think it was January, recognizing there was about a $7 million deficit that we had, and we didn't have the money to open those jail beds, but we instructed the sheriff to do that anyhow. That's not the sheriff's fault. So I was upset about that. You all know that. My colleagues know that. We came to the budget of 1920, just a few months later, and the budget message was, and the instruction was, And the promise was basically that we were going to have a balanced budget by the end of next year, which would have been this year, and that we were going to implement a hiring freeze, and we were going to implement zero-based budgeting for this particular year. Well, that didn't happen. The hiring freeze happened to some degree. We were able to cut some positions, but we don't have a sustainably balanced budget. We don't have a structurally sound budget. And so in October, the board gave direction to staff that prepare a budget that in 2 years gets us to a structurally balanced, sustainable budget. That was the instruction. Staff prepared the budget. What we had dropped on us was basically that. Budget committee met in April or May, and in April, I believe, prior to the actual formal budget committee meeting. And we talked about it, but we didn't really have any clear direction, and talked about maybe it go farther or longer before we actually implement that. So we started out the budget committee meeting and with the full budget committee in place a few weeks later in May. And as the administrator rolled out his budget message, I tried to bring the discussion back to tab 2, which was really about the forecasting, about the FTEs, about the hiring, about a number of the real critical elements as to how we actually cerebrally get our brain wrapped around how we're going to approach this budget and get ourselves and give staff direction, how we're going to get to a balanced budget and when. We didn't do that. I tried to make that plea at the beginning. I made that plea several times towards the end. It was dismissed. I was actually interrupted. And so here we are today. And my concern, again, is that number one, we don't have a structurally balanced budget. We don't have clear direction to staff of when we will have a structurally balanced budget. And I don't see a path. I really don't see a path or a strategy towards a balanced budget or a year in which we will have a structurally balanced budget. I know that we have technically a legally balanced budget, but we don't have a structurally balanced or a structurally sustainable budget. That's my concern. And I really think it's a responsibility, a core responsibility to get there and get there as soon as possible. We have some unknowns that are going to make the situation worse. And we don't know what those are, such as the Equal Pay Act and a number of things that have financial implications. We have a number of large expenses coming in the future and no clear path in sight to pay for those. Those are my comments for today.
Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm not as skeptical as my colleague. I believe that our new finance director is working towards getting us on that path. I want to commend her for the work that she and her team have done up to this point. I think we all share the same objective, a sustainable budget going forward as quickly as possible. I particularly want to commend her team and Director Schmidt, because we're going to do something over the next 6 months that's never been done before, and that's monthly meet with our budget committee and their expertise and work on this sustainable budget going forward every month for at least the next 6 months to get where we want to go. I think that the willingness to be that open and work as a team and continue to take advantage of the expertise of the members of our citizen part of the committee is commendable on our staff's part. And I believe we will get exactly where we want to go in a reasonable period of time. We just need to give them the opportunity to work on this and us the opportunity to work on this. So I tend to look forward as to how do we solve the problem, and I think we are on the right path to solving.
All right. Any other comments? Well, we have a motion on the floor. Mary, will you poll us?
Yes. Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
No.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you. And the next item, Gary?
Yes, next is a resolution adopting changed fees for Clackamas County for fiscal year 2020. 2021. We have Kathleen Rastetter, County Counsel, to present.
Morning, Chair Bernard, Commissioners. As you know, all our fees are reviewed annually with the county departments, and then after review, the departments propose new or changed fees for consideration by the board. You have seen these changes in the fees at a study session and tentatively approved them. So today we have the resolution for you that, if approved, would increase and change fees to be incorporated into our county code and effective July 1st, 2020.
Any questions of the presenter? Being none, let's open the public hearing.
Okay. For all those on Zoom, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing, adopting changed fees for Clackamas County fiscal year 2020 to 2021, please hit the raise hand button now on Zoom, or if you were on the phone, *9. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. There are no emails related to this public hearing. Seeing none, Chair.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve and adopt the changed fees for Clackamas County fiscal year 2020-2021 as presented in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve and adopt the changed fees for Clackamas County fiscal year 2020-2021 as presented in the resolution. Any further discussion? Mary, please poll the commission.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item, Gary.
Next is an ordinance adopting changed fines for Clackamas County for fiscal year 2020-2021 and declaring an emergency. Kathleen Rastetter from County Council will also present.
Again, Commissioners, we have an ordinance before you. All fines are renewed annually by the departments, and they make any changes or new fines for consideration by the board. These fines changes have also been reviewed by you in a session earlier and tentatively approved for adoption. So now we have the presentation of the ordinance that would change fines for Clackamas County for fiscal year 2021 to 2020 to 2021 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any clarifying questions? Seeing one, I'll open the public hearing. And Dylan?
All right. To members of the public, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing, adopting changed fines for Clackamas County for fiscal year 2020-2021 and declaring an emergency, go ahead and raise your hand now on Zoom, or if you're on the phone, hit *9. Seeing none, Chair.
With that, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we read the ordinance by title only.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we read the ordinance by title only. Any further discussion? And I'll ask Mary to please poll the commission.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries. I'd ask the clerk to assign a number and read the ordinance by title only.
Okay, this is going to be ordinance number 05-2020, an ordinance amending Appendix B, fines of the Clackamas County Code and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I'd ask for a motion to adopt.
Chairman, I move we adopt the ordinance for the changed fines for Clackamas County fiscal year 2020-2021 and declaring an emergency.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the ordinance for changed fines for Clackamas County fiscal year 2020-2021 and declare an emergency. Any further discussion? I'd ask the clerk to please poll the commission.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. And now I'll announce that the board will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District for the next item. And Gary, what is that item?
Yes, it is a resolution adopting the enhanced law enforcement district budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. Elizabeth Comfort, Interim Finance Director, will present.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Today, I'm requesting adoption of the fiscal year 2021 budget for the Clackamas County Enhanced Law Enforcement District. This district was created by the voters in 1995 with the goal of providing an improved level of patrol services in the unincorporated areas of the county within the urban growth boundary and Johnson City. The district continues to support 36 sworn officers. As was the case for the general Clackamas County budget, this budget was approved by the district's budget committee, which met May 26th, reviewed the budget, provided an opportunity for public testimony, deliberated, and approved the budget. The fiscal year 2021 approved budget summary for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District was posted on the county's website along with the notice of today's Board of County Commissioners meeting and public hearing. There are 3 specific actions to be taken. Adopt the budget and make appropriations in the amount of $7,836,261. Categorize all tax revenue as falling under the general government limitation for Measure 5 purposes, and impose the district's maximum permanent tax rate of 0.7198 per thousand of assessed value within the district boundaries. With that, I respectfully request adoption of the fiscal year 2021 budget for the Clackamas County Enhanced Law Enforcement District. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any clarifying questions? Seeing none, I'll ask Dylan. We'll open the public hearing. Ask Dylan.
Okay, very good. So members of the public, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing adopting the Enhanced Law Enforcement District budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, you can go ahead and hit the raise hand button now on Zoom, or *9 if you were on the phone. We have no emails related to this one. Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the Clackamas County Enhanced Law Enforcement District as presented in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the Clackamas County Enhanced Law Enforcement District as presented in the resolution. Any further discussion? Paul.
Yes, Chair. Thank you. Over the years, I have expressed my discomfort with how we run as the Board of County Commissioners representing special districts. This is a district. We only meet today and momentarily for just a brief time during the budget committee cycle, as the only time as the Board of Directors for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. That's something I struggled with, but I have conveyed that, hadn't had the opportunity to ask the questions in the budget cycle. I've actually had in the past, not to my satisfaction, but adequate enough budget information and detail in years past for the Enhanced Sheriff's Law Enforcement District, except for this year. This year, it was extremely vague. I have asked in the past and even last budget cycle for a annual report. That has not been forthcoming this year. And I truly appreciate, with sincerity, all of the work that the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Advisory Board provides and their hard work and their dedication. I appreciate their questions. I appreciate all the hard work of our Sheriff's Department staff and for all the good work they do. This is no reflection on them, no reflection on our staff or Elizabeth or anyone else. This I believe, I just believe that we have a responsibility as a district, and we don't really recognize our districts as jurisdictions and that they are autonomous, and that we have to look at those, and we have not really done that very well. And with as vague as a budget, and yes, I will say that Nancy with the sheriff's office did provide me some more detail after the budget meeting was over, but not enough time for the entire budget committee to discuss it. So I'm hoping we can do better next year, but I cannot vote for it this year.
All right. Have I read it? Yes, I think, did I read the motion? I believe so. All right, ask Mary to please poll the commission.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman,
Fisher?
Yes?
Oh, sorry,
I-
Commissioner Humberston has a question.
I had my hand up.
Oh, okay. Sorry, missed it.
I just wanted to point out that that I think some conversations with the sheriff-elect in the very near future would be beneficial in dealings with the sheriff's budget in general, and more particularly the priorities within the sheriff's department that even some of the deputies have raised. We have 60, I believe it's 63 deputies spread over 3 shifts that are actually patrol deputies. That's 21 per shift. When you consider vacancies, sick leave, annual leave, and court appearances, there are times when there's a single deputy between Mount Hood and Damascus. Our rural community is concerned about the level of service that they get, and I would hope that we can convene some discussions with the sheriff's department on how we can do better in providing those services. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. See no other hands. Mary, please poll us.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
No.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Bernard?
Aye, motion carries 4-1. The next item will announce that the board will adjourn as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District and convene as Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District for the next item. Gary, what's up?
Next is a resolution adopting the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service Budget, 4-H Service District Budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. Elizabeth Comfort, Wilkerson.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. We're requesting adoption of the fiscal year 2020-21 budget for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District today. This district was approved by voters in November of 2008 to allow programs serving families, youth, and agricultural and natural resource operations in the county to continue and expand. These services include 4-H programs, technical assistance for farmers, family forest owners, nursery and Christmas tree growers, gardeners, and homemakers. Since the district's inception, it has also been accumulating resources toward its goal of building a new extension education center, which is to be built on the Red Soils campus. This budget was approved by the district's budget committee, which met May 26th, reviewed the budget, provided an opportunity for public testimony, deliberated, and approved the budget. The fiscal year 2020-21 approved budget summary for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District has been posted on the county's website, along with a notice of today's Board of Commissioners actions and public hearing. The actions to be taken today are adopt the budget and make appropriations in the amount of $9,813,399, categorize all tax revenue as falling under the general government limitation for Measure 5 purposes, and thirdly, impose the district's maximum permanent tax rate of 5 cents per thousand of assessed value within district boundaries. We request adoption of the fiscal year 2020-21 budget for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any clarifying questions? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Go ahead, Dylan.
Very good, Chair. Okay, if any of the members of the public have a comment related to this specific public hearing adopting the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, go ahead and raise your hand on Zoom now, or if you are on the phone, as we do have people on the phone, *9, please. Thank you. Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Chair, I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District as presented in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve an action and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District as presented in the resolution. Any further discussion? Mary, please poll us.
Ken has a question.
Ken.
Just a quick comment. I think that the district should be commended for the savings that they've done to prepare for building a new building when the time comes. I'd like to encourage our staff to help them wherever it's possible in applying for grants that may become available as stimulus dollars might come available from the federal government going forward in the future, and any other sources we might find to help them out. Thank you.
All right, Mary, please poll us.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
and Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. I think we have time for one more, then we'll take a break. I'll announce that the board will adjourn as the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District and convene as the Library Service District for Clackamas County for the next item. And what is that next item?
It is a resolution adopting the Library Service District of Clackamas County 2020-2021 fiscal year budget and making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. We have Sarah Ekman and Mitzi Olson from Business and Community Services to present. Go ahead, Sarah.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Chair Bernard, Commissioners, and Administrator Schmidt. Before you today is a staff report and resolution to adopt the Library District of Clackamas County budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. This Library District Budget Committee met on May 26, 2020 to hear the budget message, hear public comment, and deliberate on the proposed budget. The Budget Committee approved the budget in the amount of $23,162,315 with a tax rate of 30.3974 per $1,000 of assessed value. As per Oregon budget law, a notice of this meeting and a financial summary of the approved budget was published in the Clackamas Review on June 10, 2020. In addition, Oregon budget law requires that the Library District make appropriations and impose and categorize the tax levy when adopting the budget, which has been accomplished through the attached resolution. With that, I would like to respectfully recommend adoption of the Library District budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 in the amount of $23,162,315. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Any clarifying questions? See none. Dylan, I'll open the public hearing.
Members of the public, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing adopting the Library Service District of Clackamas County 2020-2021 fiscal year budget, go ahead and hit your raise hand on Zoom now, or if you're on the phone, again, it is *9. No emails related to, well, let me double check. No. Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Chair, I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the Library Service District of Clackamas County as presented in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the action, adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the Library Service District of Clackamas County as presented in the resolution. Any further discussion? Mary, please poll the commission.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
and Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. And with that, I'll announce that the board will adjourn as Library Service District for Clackamas County and convene as North Clackamas Park and Recreation District for the next item. And with that, we'll take a break. I assume you guys want a break?
Yep.
Okay, so 15 minutes. So that'd be 11:45 approximately.
Yeah, may I make a suggestion that when we do the lighting district, if we have any sunglasses, that we might want to wear them because of the illuminating conversation that will surely ensue?
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, I'll search and see if I got some. I may have to run to the store. 15 minutes ought to give me the time. With that, we're adjourned for 15 minutes. And I believe I already convened as the Parks District, or did I?
You did.
You did.
Okay.
And we're on
All right.
page 4 of our script.
All right, Gary, we are back. Thanks for the break. And what's up next?
Yes, next is resolution adopting the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District's 2020-2021 fiscal year budget and making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2020. We have Scott Archer and Elizabeth Gomez from the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District to present.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, board members, Chair Bernard and board members. I'm going to actually turn it over to our Finance Operations Manager, Elizabeth Gomez, to present the budget adoption to you. So, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, Chair Bernard and commissioners. Before you is a board order and staff report for the adoption of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. The NCPRD Budget Committee met on May 26th to receive the budget message, hear public comment, and deliberate on the proposed budget. At that time, the Budget Committee approved the proposed budget in the amount of $33,048,388 with a tax rate of 0.5382 per $1,000 of assessed value. As per Oregon budget law, a notice of this meeting and a financial summary of the approved budget were published in the Clackamas Review and on the county website on June 10th, 2020. With that, I would like to respectfully recommend adoption of the NCPRD budget in the amount of $33,048,388, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes for the fiscal year 2020-2021.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions of the presenters? Paul?
Yeah. This is no fault of staff. This has been the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District's been through a lot of turmoil as a result of all the legal engagements with the city Happy Valley and the legislature, and we've got that resolved. So we're preparing a budget now without Happy Valley in it. My question is probably more not for Elizabeth, but for Scott, is that the policy work that the District Advisory Board did, or the subcommittee of the District Advisory Board did with regards to SDCs, has that been codified? Because I believe that that committee was formed in anticipation of Happy Valley's withdrawal, and it was formed on certain structures and geographic definition that now is changed, and which is why the work was done on the SDCs. And that recommendation, and also recommendations of other bodies as well, concurred with that recommendation to make them district-wide SDCs. Is that what's in the budget today?
Commissioner Savas, no, we have not codified the updated SDC work yet. You're correct. The District Advisory Board, acting as the SDC committee, did do some work. They studied the SDC plan. That was during the time where there was uncertainty of whether Happy Valley would stay in the district or withdraw. There was still some back and forth going on. As you know, just in the last several months, we've resolved that issue. So what our intention is to pick that work back up and move forward now with the certainty that Happy Valley is withdrawn as of July 1st of this year. So no, we do not have the updated SDC rates or new code in this budget. That work still needs to be completed, and we intend to do so.
Okay, one clarifying question. Thank you for the response, Scott. The work and all the recommendations and the fact there was concurrence. So is it, when you say the remaining work will be done, is that really the remaining work to take the future steps, or not reconvene and start the process over from the beginning, I hope?
We hope not to start the process over. That's correct. So there was a certain amount of work that has been completed. We would intend to utilize that work and just build upon that going forward. So essentially, we would probably just need to revisit and kind of reconfirm the work that had been done, and then take that forward through an approval process that would be completed.
Right. I guess instead of holding my comments for later, I'll just make one comment so I don't have to repeat it later on, and that is no reflection on staff. I think staff's doing the best they could under these difficult circumstances, very complicated circumstances. So my comments are really about more the situation. And again, because of the substantial, significant difficulties and changes that the district has incurred. And I recognize that the district is an autonomous, standalone jurisdiction. But unfortunately, it's not always treated as such. And I think that more than ever, it should have had monthly meetings of the board of directors, not the district advisory board per se, that too, but specifically, and most importantly, the board of directors who we sit as the board of directors for the North Parks and Recreation District. And I do know that COVID has made at least a short-term interruption or delay in that. So putting that aside, I'm really speaking about our inconsistency with meeting as a board of directors prior to COVID. So with that, I have concerns, and I have concerns that of a number of things. I won't go into detail today, but I do struggle with this, and not necessarily the budget. So I think the budget work is fine, but I just think structurally and operationally, as involving the board of directors, that we need to step up our game. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, with that, I will open the public hearing. Ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. Dylan?
Very good, Chair. If any members of the public have a comment related to this specific public hearing adopting the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District's 2020-2021 fiscal year budget, please go ahead and raise your hand on Zoom, or if you're on the phone, and we do have those on the phone, *9. I see no emails related to this. Seeing none, Chair.
With that, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion. Somebody out there?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District as presented in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District as presented in the resolution. Any further discussion? Mary, will you please poll us?
Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Bernard?
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Gary, what's next?
Next, a resolution for a North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District supplemental budget greater than 10% and transfer of appropriations for fiscal year 2019-2020. Scott and Elizabeth will present.
Thank you again, Gary. Board members, while you still have your NCPRD hats on, we're going to do this supplemental budget action. And again, I'm going to call on Elizabeth Gomez to present this to you.
Thank you, Scott. Chair Bernard and commissioners, before you is a board order and staff report for a supplemental budget for North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Per Oregon budget law, a public meeting is required for a supplemental budget greater than 10% and transfer of appropriations. NCPRD is requesting a decrease of $2,912,661 of the interfund transfer category for Fund 480 Capital Projects Fund. This is to ensure that budgeted transfers are equal. On March 19th, we moved funds from the interfund transfer category in Fund 283 to a special payments category for the payment of SDCs to the City of Happy Valley. The request before you today reduces the interfund transfer in 480 to match that adjustment. In addition, NCPRD is recognizing additional unanticipated revenue in the amount of $137,985 from our contract with Clackamas County Social Services. This additional funding comes in part from the CARES Act and will be used to help fund the NCPRD nutrition program. I respectfully request the board approve this resolution in keeping with a legally accurate budget.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
So I heard, Elizabeth, your explanation, and just want to confirm what you said. The SDC transfer is to the City of Happy Valley as a result of they're exiting the district, basically.
Yes, that was done. That's what we did in March.
Okay, and this is because it's 10% over that budget line.
That's correct. This is the other side of that interfund transfer budget line.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no further questions? With that, Dylan, I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter.
Very good. Members of the public, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing, the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District supplemental budget, please go ahead and raise your hand now on Zoom, or Stein if you were on the phone. Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the resolution for North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District supplemental budget greater than 10% and transfer of appropriations for fiscal year 2019-2020.
There's a second.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve a resolution for North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District supplemental budget greater than 10% and transfer of appropriations for FY 2019-2020. Any further discussion? All right, Mary, please poll the commission.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
And Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thank
With
you.
that, I'll announce that the board will now adjourn as the North Clackamas Park and Recreation District and reconvene as the development agency for the next item. And Gary, what is that next item?
Next is resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency. We have Dave Queener from the Development Agency who will present as soon as he's in the room.
Dave, your mic's off. Oh, there you
There
go.
we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All righty. Good morning. Happy to be here with you this morning to discuss our 2021 or 2020-2021 budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency. The development agency is the urban renewal authority in Clackamas County and is charged with implementing 3 urban renewal plans. This includes the Clackamas Town Center area, Clackamas Industrial area, and the North Clackamas Revitalization area. Funding is typically provided through tax increment financing, which is a dedicated revenue source supporting the plan implementation within these areas. However, funding from tax increment financing is received only in the North Clackamas Revitalization area, as the levies in the other 2 areas have been terminated. To be noted that the agency receives no general fund support. The budget before you today encompasses appropriations for the 3 plan areas. The total development agency budget is $70,097,874. As a percentage of budget appropriations, approximately 92% of the budgeted appropriations will be used for capital related projects. The agency budget committee met on May 26th to review the budget and provide an opportunity for public testimony. The committee recommends approval of the budget before you today. The fiscal year 2020-2021 approved budget summary for the Clackamas County Development Agency has been posted on the county's website, along with notice of today's Board of County Commission's actions and public hearing. With that, I respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting and appropriating funds in the amount of $70,097,874 for the fiscal year 2020-2021 Clackamas County Development Agency budget.
Any questions of the presenter? Hearing none, open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter, and turn it over to Dylan.
Thank you, Chair. Again, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing, adopting and appropriating funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency, go ahead and raise your hand now on Zoom or *9 on the phone. Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Page. I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency as presented in the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency as presented in the resolution. Any further discussion? Mary, please poll us.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. And with that, I'll announce that the board will adjourn as a development agency and convene as the Clackamas County Service District number 5 lighting district for the next item. And as this is a very enlightening issue, and let me see, Gary, what's up?
Next is a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget for Clackamas County Service District number 5. We have Wendy Coriel from Transportation and Development, and also Service District number 5 to present.
Good morning, Commissioners. I brought mine too, but as you can see, as a lighting district, you'd think I'd be able to light up the room a little bit better, so I'm not going to need them. So anyway, good morning. I'm Wendy Coriel, representing Clackamas County Service District number 5. And today I'm requesting that the board adopt the fiscal year 2021 budget for the district. The board resolution before you today is for adopting the budget for Service District number 5 and appropriating funds in the amount of $2,569,257. This budget was reviewed and approved by the Budget Committee on May 26, 2020. And the notice for today's hearing was posted on the Clackamas County website on June 8th of 2020. And this mission of the district is to provide street lighting for the city of Happy Valley and also in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County. And the district also contracts with PGE for the design, installation, maintenance, and operation of street lights. The costs for those street lights are passed on to those served by the district via assessments that go out in the November property tax statements. Each year, the district reviews each rate structure. There's 12 rate categories. Last year, the district made no changes to the rates as the 5-year forecast showed that the funds were more than adequate to operate the district. The 5-year forecast shows that maintaining the current rates for 2020 and 21, that the district will continue to maintain the adequate ending fund balance. So with that, that ends my presentation. And on behalf of Service District number 5, I respectfully request approval of the board resolution adopting the budget and appropriating the funds of $2,569,257 for Clackamas County Service District number 5.
Thank you. I'm really disappointed we didn't get a chance to look at the different lighting options, but maybe we can do that some other time.
Next time.
All right, thank you. Do any commissioners have any enlightening questions? Seeing none, Dylan, we're going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify, and hopefully they're enlightening. Oh, Paul, I missed you. I will get you after this.
Very good, Sheriff. Again, public, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing adopting and appropriating funds for the 2020-2021 budget for Clackamas County Service District number 5. Now is the time to hit the raise hand feature on Zoom or *9 if you are on the phone. Well, I believe all our attendees are enlightened, Chair Bernard, but I do not see any comments. So back to you.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion. After that, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move where's the lighting district? Oops, messed up.
Would you like me to take it?
I found it. I move we
Okay.
approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for the Clackamas County Service District number 5 as presented in the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded that we approve the action and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for Clackamas County Service District number 5 as presented in the resolutions. Any further discussion?
Let there be light, and there was light.
Have a good day, guys.
Thank you. Mary, will you please poll us? You guys stay there. We may.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Got a little longer. Oh, look at
Are you
Mary.
guys there? Okay. Commissioner Fisher, I think I see you.
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
and Chair Bernard.
Aye. With that, thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next item. Thank you. Wendy.
Thank you.
I announce that the board will now adjourn as the Clackamas County Service District number 5 and convene as the governing body for the water environmental services for the next 3 items. Gary, what are those next 3 items?
First is resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget for water environment services. Greg Geis, the Director of Water Environment Services, will present.
Good morning, Chair Bernard, Commissioners. My name is Greg Geis. I'm the Director of Water Environment Services. I tried to set up in my bathroom, but it just didn't work. So I am. I'm happy to be the final public hearing of the day and to present the proposed budget for Clackamas Water Environment Services. Before describing the proposed budget, I want to note that WES has taken significant actions to maintain our services during this pandemic to protect public health and the environment. We've split operations employees into 4 distinct work teams reporting to 2 different locations in order to maintain resiliency. Shifted nearly all of our administrative workers to remote operations and reprioritized work to ensure critical functions and projects continue and regulatory requirements are met. We're also mindful of the impact of this pandemic on our customers. At your direction, WES has adopted several temporary policies to support those in difficult circumstances, including no late fees, no certification of late accounts for collection, and working with customers with flexible repayment plans. We estimate that revenues will be reduced by about approximately $2.6 million between reduced rate revenue and system development charge payments for FY 2021. This budget also recommends reducing WES's proposed overall rate increase from the original 5% discussed with the BCC in our advisory committee in previous years to approximately 2.5% as an average across all rate zones. This rate change would continue to support the ongoing capital needs identified in the 5-year capital improvement plan, partnered with an operating budget that decreases expenditures by approximately $50,000 from this current fiscal year. WES's total proposed FY 2021 budget is $166 million, a decrease of 3% or $5.1 million from FY 19-20. The total budget includes capital outlay of approximately $40 million, operating and maintenance expenditures of $30.1 million, debt payments of $7.4 million, and contingencies and reserves of approximately $88.5 million, reflecting the expenditure of ending fund balances previously built up. The major components in the budget from a strategic perspective include a slightly reduced operational budget, a decrease in planned capital expenditures as indicated in our revised capital improvement plan, and system development charge revenues are anticipated at a lower level. This is part and due to the impact of the pandemic, and in part because of prior projections were consistently overestimating the rate of growth, particularly in rate zone 1, the Tri-City area. On the wastewater side, FY 2021 will be a year of completion of major projects and the beginning of others. Significant capital improvements include the completion of the Tri-City Solids Capacity Expansion Project and bringing online the new digester, the refurbishment of major portions of the Kellogg Water Resource Recovery Facility, the Willamette Facilities Master Plan completion, and initiation of the Tri-City Outfall Project. By the way, we were in front of the Oregon City Commission last night requesting their support for placing a ballot initiative on the November ballot that would allow us to place that effluent pipe underneath John Storm Park, which is a city charter requirement, requires a vote. And we got unanimous approval from the commission to do that, even with all of the turmoil that was going on. So very pleased about that. We anticipate launching a long desired regional conversation regarding the reduction of inflow and infiltration to address peak wet weather challenges. For surface water services, efforts continue to focus on taking watershed management approach that expands core stormwater system maintenance practices to include stream restoration and resource stewardship efforts that improve watershed health. Overall, this budget with flat operational expenses and drawing down reserves for capital projects is designed to sustain essential services and support the infrastructure necessary to protect public health and the environment. WES staff concurs with the Budget Committee in recommending adoption of the proposed budget. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of this presenter? Seeing none, well, open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. And Dylan, it's yours.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any attendees, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing, adopting and appropriating funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget for water environment services. Go ahead and raise your hand now, or if you're on the phone, *9. Seeing none, Chair.
With that, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the actions and adopt the 2020-2021 budget for water environmental services as presented in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the actions to adopt the 2020-2021 budget for water environmental services as presented in the resolution. Any further discussion? Mary, please poll the commission.
Commissioner Fisher?
I had a question, Chair Bernard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wasn't there a second ago?
I just wanted to commend Greg and his team for the work that they've done in the last year, particularly in the resolution of some of the issues with our cities. It's been a big lift, but your team has done a great job. Shelley Perini obviously has done an outstanding job in working with all of the parties You guys are really to be commended for the work that you've done. I have an expression I like, and it's government that doesn't work together doesn't work. And this is an example of government getting together and working together. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Humberson. I also want to recognize Chris Story. He played a huge role in that.
Okay.
I'd like to recognize Paul and myself for participating in that discussion.
Of course, of course.
Well, you deserve combat medals for that. Yeah. That's for sure.
All right, so Mary, please poll us.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Now, in your emails, you've all got the draft, the letter to the governor, which we're going to discuss before this meeting ends. So please take a minute, read it. I have read it. And let's move on to the next item. Gary, what is that item?
Yes, and we'll discuss that later during my county administrator update. So that's how much time you have before we talk about it. The next item is board order amending and adopting rates and charges for water environment services. Greg will present.
So I don't have any further material to present.
All right. I guess that won't ask. We've all participated in this discussion, seen these materials. With that, I would ask Dylan to open the public hearing, ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter.
Very good. Okay, public, if you have a comment related to this specific public hearing, amending and adopting the rates and charges for water environment services, please raise your hand on Zoom now. And we do have a comment here, Chair. So let me go ahead and bring over a familiar name, Les Poole. Mr. Poole, if you could go ahead and unmute yourself, and I'll give you a second to do that. Very good. And then if you can go ahead for the record and state your name and your area of residence, and please keep your comment to 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Les Poole, I live in Gladstone, but I always identify myself as being a resident of Clackamas County. We really are all in this together. I do want to commend Mr. Geist and Wes and the board for all of the hard work and effort it's taken. I can tell you as a taxpayer and as a resident, it's been troubling. It's been a test of patience for you folks, and at the same time, it's been a real sore spot for a long time. And I'm just seeing a much better management, much better communication. Recently, you did a very large upgrade and new pipe installation on the bridge over the Clackamas, and that went well. So I'm just here to say that while I haven't reviewed the whole budget, and Wes is not my specialty, I try to stay out of the bathroom. I do approve of this, and I see quite a bit for capital expense in all of the West budget. I like to see that. When you hear it's 70 million, you think to yourself, what are we doing with 70 million? But obviously we're putting pipes and things in the ground that are so essential. So with all the growth we have, and with the importance, the extreme importance of clean water, I do recommend approval of the budget. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Les. Any others?
Very good. Seeing no others, Chair.
Thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we amend and adopt the rates and charges for water environmental services as presented in the board order.
Is there a second? Did somebody say yes?
Second.
Yeah, I think I got 2 or 3 yeses, seconds on that. And any further discussion? With that, I'll ask Mary to please poll the commission.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. The next item, Gary.
The final public hearing, commissioners, is board order establishing system development charges for water environment services for fiscal year 2020-2021. Greg, do you have a presentation?
I just have a couple remarks. Thank you. I will just say that, we've had quite a bit of conversations around SDCs. What is a full SDC? What do we charge? How does it balance with rates? What we just did this year was had a inflationary adjustment to the SDCs, and we levelized the SDCs across all of our rate zones. So if you receive water treatment or sewage treatment services, regardless of your location, you pay the same SDC. For some, that was a modest few percent increase. For others, it was more significant where they had historically lower SDCs. We also did a inflationary adjustment to our stormwater SDC this year.
All right, thank you. Any questions of the presenter? Seeing none, open the public hearing, ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. And Dylan, it's yours.
Very good, Chair. Lucky number 13. If you have a comment related to this specific public hearing, the 13th, establishing system development charges for water environment services for fiscal year 2020-2021. Now's the time to raise your hand on Zoom or hit *9 if you are on the phone. Seeing none, Chair.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. I'm going to do it. I move we establish system development charges for water and environmental services for fiscal year 2020-2021 as presented in the board order. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we establish system development charges for water environmental services for fiscal year 2020-21 and presented in the order. Any further discussion? Paul.
Yes, briefly, thank you. Appreciate, Greg, your comments. I just want to reiterate, echo what I have said before, and I think a number of us are trying to do, and that is try to better proportion the cost or the SDCs to the size of the home, for example, amidst this affordability crisis the region is in, or actually the whole state is in. I think anything we can do to reduce the cost in a more and spread the cost more equitably so that people with large homes that have lots of plumbing facilities, fixtures, pay a more fair share of their load, and perhaps lessen the burden for smaller homes, make it more affordable. I know that was a discussion that you had mentioned the advisory board has had, and I'm hoping we can make progress in that next year. I'll be supporting this, but I just want to echo, the importance of this at these critical times.
Yes, that is an ongoing discussion with our advisory committee, with the board, and ultimately with the public. It's going to be part of our proposed new rules and regulations for the districts, and we're certainly addressing that. You will see that.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll open the public hearing and ask, did I already do this?
We're ready for the poll.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. And with that, I'd like to announce that the board will adjourn as the Clackamas County Water Environmental Services and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the remainder of this meeting. And next up is what, Gary?
Consent agenda, and Mary will read the consent agenda.
Okay, today's Okay, under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement number 160440, amending this with amendment with the State of Oregon Department of Human Services, Aging and People with Disabilities for the provision of services to Clackamas County residents, approval of software service agreement and procurement of software services with First Watch Solutions for Public Health Division, approval of assignment of 2 agreements with Northwest Housing Alternatives for the Pleasant Avenue Apartment Project in Oregon City, approval of a grant to Clackamas Women's Services to administer COVID-19 rental relief program funds, and approval of a grant to Northwest Family Services to administer COVID-19 rental relief program funds. Okay. Under finance, approval of an extension of lease number 1 to the Willamette Building with Willamette Building Partnership, and approval of extension of lease number 1 to the Homestead Building with Homestead Building for the Sandy Behavioral Health Center. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office and the City of Gladstone, Oregon, to participate in the Interagency Special Weapons and Tactics Team, a request by the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to approve Amendment number 3 to the agreement with the Oregon State Marine Board. Number 4 was removed off our agenda. Number 5 is approval of an intergovernmental agreement number 34057 between Clackamas County Sheriff's Office and the State of Oregon, acting by and through its Department of Transportation, and a request by the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to enter into an annual operating and financial plan with the USDA Forest Service for cooperative law enforcement services in the Mount Hood National Forest.
Oh.
Under County Council, we have a board order for the adoption of a previously approved land use zone change application, file number Z054619Z, Kirchham Farms. Under Technology Services, approval of a purchase order for HPE Nimble primary storage capacity and annual support from CDW Government LLC. Under North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, a resolution for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for appropriations for fiscal year 2019-2020. And under Water Environment Services, approval of amendment number 1 to the agreements between Water Environment Services and Hillsborough Landfill, Valley Landfills, Wasco County Landfill, and Waste Management Services of Oregon for disposal of biosolids, grit, screening, and debris. And that concludes today's consent agenda.
Thank you, Mary. Do any commissioners wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Paul?
I just have a brief question. I don't know who's got best access to the agenda. I thought I had a copy of that, but I don't. I was looking. Gary, one of the last items there was that North Clackamas transfer. Could you just briefly tell me what that's about? The appropriations under the NCPRD?
Yeah, I don't know. So Mary, can you pull up the staff report quickly?
Yes.
Please.
I apologize, everyone.
I'm hurrying.
No problem. We've got all day.
You're actually making pretty good time, commissioners. You're doing very well. Chair, would you like to go to Sonia's question while we're looking that up?
Sure, Sonia.
I didn't really have a question. I just had a comment. There are state dollars that are rental relief dollars that are on this consent agenda. And I just want to appreciate our staff for the lightning speed at which they are working to get this before us so that I mean, this is incredible work, you guys, and we just have to say thank you to all our staff for the incredible effort and work and timeliness of things. That's all.
Thank you. Mary, anything?
I got it.
Okay.
Wait one sec. Here it is.
I had a problem opening the
Oh.
packet on the online today, so I just tried it again and it's still jamming up on me. I don't know why.
You know what? It's not letting me bring it up to share.
Yeah, that was the problem I had. So I just wanted to share with you. I tried to look this up earlier. I thought it was my computer. But now if Mary's having the same problem, I still have the same problem. So it's not letting me in.
Hey, Paul,
Gary.
which one is it? Because I've got it up in a PDF and I'm able to flip all around, no problem. Which number is it?
NCPRD, thank you.
I think I've got it. If people want me to bring it up, Gary, if you want me to bring it up.
Go ahead, Dylan. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. Is it this one?
Yeah, could you, yeah, just, all right.
That's it.
So it's basically the appropriation we really approved earlier. Scroll down a little bit more, please.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're good with it then?
Yes.
All right, so with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oops, please poll us.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Next up is citizen communication. We're going to go to Dylan Blaylock to bring people in as desired.
Hey, thank you, Chair. And this is the time of the meeting for general comment related to any county issue for our attendees on Zoom. If any attendees, again, would like to provide a comment, please utilize the raise hand feature on Zoom, or if you're on the phone, and we do, *9 for the last time today. Seeing none, Chair.
Wow.
All right, great. Thank you. And we will turn it over to the county administrator for updates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll ask if you, Mary, please bring in Nancy Bush to the session. So first, Commissioners, let's talk about the draft letter about Phase 2 application. Our amazing staff has drafted the letter during this meeting as you requested. It was emailed to you about 15 minutes ago. So if you haven't, please skim it very quickly, but now's the opportunity for you to either give us edits or to approve the letter. And Nancy's here on the line to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I've had an opportunity to read it. I'm satisfied. What about you guys?
I have one under the first bullet there, or number 1, where it says Clackamas County has the 3rd highest population, but did not receive any CARES funding to help manage the restrictions. I know that the sentence above that talks about county residents and businesses coping with, but is it accurate, staff, that the CARES funding, we can use that, is eligible to be used for assisting businesses? Yes, no?
So yes, Commissioner, that is correct. CARES funding can be used to assist businesses. There are certain rules around that, but yes, that is correct.
Okay, so I think staff did a pretty good job with it overall. I just wondering if that could be emphasized a little bit more, that absent the funding, unlike Multnomah and Washington County and Portland, we don't have any CARES Act funding for assisting businesses. It just needs to be just a little bit more emphasis, but overall, I'm good with the letter.
And that's actually what I had told her. that, had, you're uniting us in a region, yet we had no money and the other three groups did. And so we can't help our businesses. So it follows with what I told her. Anybody else? Asanya.
Yeah, I tried to forward messages to folks to get an answer to my question. And I don't know, Nancy, if you can answer it. But I'm just curious, Dr. President gave us, it's in our chat right now, all of the modeling. It's a 17-page report. And I just want to make sure that we aren't overstepping what the science has told us. Basically, does the modeling, is this consistent with the modeling? Yes, we're doing all of these things based on what the guidelines were as presented to us, but did the modeling change that? Obviously something changed because the governor is saying 21 days, face coverings in public. I just don't want us to get out ahead of the science, and I just want someone with expertise to verify that this letter is in line with where the science has led us.
So here's what I can tell you on the components of the letter that are still in place that we put together yesterday. That was written by myself, PGA staff, but also Dr. President and Philip Mason Joyner. So those particular components, I do know that we wrote that together. And I think what is really changing, and as Dr. President has said in the past, is we will see more cases. Now, it is growing faster than we thought it was going to grow, which is why I think that the governor is saying that we need face coverings when we're in public, because science has shown if you use face coverings, you are less likely to pass along the COVID if you're wearing one. I know that probably doesn't fully answer your question, but that is what I know for sure, those things.
Yeah, I'm just concerned, you guys, I'll just be frank, that I just don't want us getting out ahead of the science. And I just don't know the answer. And I don't know if Dr. President can jump on but I don't have the expertise to analyze a 17-page report on forecasting.
So the forecast model showed that if we didn't do something right away, we would get up to 1,000 a day. Today, by the way, in Florida, they announced that they are now at 3,000 a day. They opened up early without restrictions. And I think that the whole idea here really is to send the letter and say, when we meet these standards, we would like to be considered separate of the other counties, and rather be held than being held back. And I think that's a reasonable thing to ask.
Yeah, but that's not what we're saying in this letter. We're saying we are applying for phase 2. And this is why we're different than the other counties. Jim, I agree with what you're saying when we're ready, but I just don't know what the modeling shows. I'm really nervous about it because if the science tells us we're going to have many, many more cases, then our economy, we risk having greater economic harm than continuing in phase 1 and then moving gradually into phase 2. We're going to have it's going to be better for our economy in the long term. I just don't want to put my name behind doing something that isn't supported by science, and I don't have the answer. So if you guys want to send this letter, I can abstain. I'm fine with that. I don't want us to take all day to do it until Dr. President can weigh in, or we can wait until Tuesday till she can give us more information. It's up to you guys.
Oh.
So I think we're conflating a couple things. I agree with Jim said verbatim. I think, Jim, you framed it beautifully. The letter doesn't say we're ready to open now. It doesn't say that. And it doesn't say that we want to open at a certain date that we think will be ready. So if it needs better clarification, and maybe Nancy, you could read it over while we're talking. I think you are. Mm-hmm. I agree. We should not make the letter say that we're ready to open. And if it looks like that, let's make that adjustment. I think what we said Tuesday and what we've said and what Jim is saying is that when we meet the criteria, not the new move goalpost, but when we meet the criteria that we feel we ought to be opening and as a county and not as a region, I guess, essentially. That's the point I think we need to make. I agree with the governor's order that people ought to be wearing the face mask. I think that step she took was a good one. I don't have any quarrel with that whatsoever. I do not want to, I'm not going to dismiss the science, and I don't think we should jeopardize the safe and health and safety of our residents in Clackamas County. But we should not be held back for a long time because we're ready to go and another county is not ready to go.
Yeah, well, this letter says, on behalf of the Clackamas County Boards of Commissioners, we are pleased to submit this letter requesting approval for Clackamas County to move into phase 2 of reopening.
Okay,
so we're asking to go to phase 2. And unless we have some qualification around that, or the science is okay, that if we meet this criteria that were laid out initially, that we're going to be okay in Clackamas County, I'm all for it. But with changing numbers and increasing cases and modeling of 1,000 a day, I don't want to be part of the problem. I want us to get our economy back in a healthy way.
Yeah, well, I just want to clarify.
Let's let Kathy answer this. She looks like she's ready.
Well, yeah, so I think that you're right. I mean, Commissioner Fisher, that first paragraph does say that, and we can change that if the commissioners agree that, maybe instead of we're pleased to submit this letter requesting approval, we say something that we are submitting this letter, maybe something around discussion about when we can, we're all comfortable with moving into phase 2, but we would have to change that paragraph because we are asking in that paragraph to move it to phase 2.
Yeah, I guess you could say maybe it's verbiage like we, in anticipation of Clackamas County meeting the minimum criteria for phase 2, we therefore. So I agree, and I just want to point out we already voted to send the letter, so we're going to send the letter. But I agree, Sonia, good point, that we don't want to say that we're asking for it right now. That's not what we intended to do.
So we can change that first paragraph.
Okay.
Well, you guys go ahead. I'm going to abstain because I don't feel comfortable without an expert opinion on what the new modeling shows since we decided to send this letter. If Dr. President were to say, I'm good with it, I would be fine. But I'm just not comfortable with replacing my expertise for hers.
So Dr. President, I just got a text back. She was taking a walk, but she should be back. She probably could be on in about 5 minutes. So it depends on where we are in 5 minutes. She might be able to rejoin us.
Well, we have to remember that every day, every minute of the day, so to speak, it's dynamic, right? So it's not as though we're asking today to make the call. Maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, when we're ready, then we get the green light, whatever that determination is. So the science is going to change, or the data and these numbers are going to change. It's very dynamic. So it's not as though we think now is the time. So I think I understand what you're saying, Sonia.
Well, and there might be good scientific reason for the governor's office to change the goalposts based on the modeling. I don't know.
Well, I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see how Marion County gets a green light to go into phase 2 and Clackamas County doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's let Martha in here. Martha?
So what I'm most worried about from the state level is, I agree with Paul, it's inconsistent. We have one county that seems to be having different numbers than we are. We still are having numbers below theirs, but yet they're already opened up so do they have to move back? I want to get some consistency from state direction, and I really want to know, I agree with you, what science are they basing this on? But there's just no consistency. And the bottom line is this: we're not going to contain this virus. People are going to get infected no matter what. It's the rate and the ability of the hospital system to take care of those who might be in serious peril. The genie's out of the bag with this one, and we can take precautions, but people are still going to get sick because it's an infectious virus. It's just the way it is. And I think our job as policymakers is to try and balance good public health practices with, okay, what's the economy doing at the same time? I would like to err on better public health practices and scale back personally. But remember, I have a paycheck. I can pay my mortgage. I have an ability to right now, let's kind of be frank about that. I think that we're very lucky people. We have the ability to economically get through these bumps. There are a lot of people who out there who don't. And so that tension of folks pushing to get forward to try and get a job back so they can survive economically is a real issue as well. So we're just kind of trying to balance. I would like to err on the side of saving lives. However, we're also in an economic crisis, and where do we draw that line? And if there's inconsistency where the state's drawing that line, where does that leave us? And we're underfunded. So I don't have a solution. I'm just ranting right now, so I'll be quiet. So.
No, I think that's excellent. And I'm just wondering if we should have a letter that lists out all of these concerns with the state, because those are really, really good points, Martha. I appreciate it.
And
frankly, Martha touched on what I wanted to say, and that is to, again, get back to the focus of what the purpose of the shutdown was, which is to not overload the emergency response systems, which we have not done. We have not overloaded those systems. So when you take that factor into consideration and you balance that against the needs of people who, unlike us, need jobs, they need to get back to work because they can't pay their bills, and there's not a whole bunch of money coming down the pike so far to help them pay all of their bills, etc. Since we're meeting the general objective of not overloading the system, I think we need to push for that phase 2 and help people get back to making a living so they can feed their families.
so Dr. President is here now, but let me just tell you a little something. When I was on the phone with the governor, the modeling shows 1,000 infections a day if we continued on the same path. That would overload the hospital system. I mean, you heard this morning the number of hospital rooms there were that could deal with this crisis. There aren't that many. There isn't as many as we think. But let's go back to Sonia's question, and Dr. President, if you heard it, do you want her? Oh, Sonia, repeat your question or your issue.
Yeah, so I did, Dr. President, I sent an email to you and Gary and Nancy earlier, right after we got the letter. I am concerned that the governor's decision may have been based on scientific modeling, and I don't want us getting out ahead of that to the degree. My concern is the economy, like everyone else, and I see the risk of us, if we push to do things too quickly, then the economic harm will be much greater because we'll have to take more steps backwards, and I don't want to see that. And I appreciate you giving us the link to the 17-page modeling report, but I couldn't, synthesize it, read it. I would need another degree to understand that, and I just don't want us getting out ahead of it. So I just need help.
Dr. President?
So I'm not sure exactly how to answer this. I don't know what the governor's decision was based on. I do think that the modeling is concerning because we're looking more at the way that actions and activities are occurring more at the faster rate of increase than at the slower rate. So there are a couple of different options, and if you put in, you have a range of like potential spread, and if we keep going the way we are, we're in a good state to maintain hospital capacity and public health capacity. If we reopen too quickly, there is a good chance that we will have another surge of illnesses, and hopefully not severe illnesses. you know, we always have to, I think that we're all aware that we're going to have an increase in cases. Many people do just fine. We want to decrease deaths, right? And having hospital capacity is a huge part of it. And so it may be based on modeling, but I would think that it's also based on the case counts and the type of work that I don't know. I'm marred in the public health department, and I know how our work has increased significantly in the last 2 weeks while we're trying to onboard people and to actually have, you know, outbreak control and the ability to sufficiently contact trace and control spread. That's where I see us still not being there, especially if we have a big increase in cases. So we have had a big increase in cases. We're still working on getting that handled. But if we have another big increase in cases before we have everybody trained, before we're ready for it, we're not going to be able to identify the outbreaks and where it's moving and be able to contain it like I expect us to do. And I believe everybody in our state and country should expect the public health department to be able to address it. Again, I see that from a very, very particular standpoint. I also see the economic impact and the adverse effects of that on people's health. And that's a very real thing that I fully understand. I just think we're still ramping up for control of this disease, and going too fast can overwhelm the hospital systems, can overwhelm the public health system. And the other, sorry, I'm rambling now, but I'm going to just say the other aspect that is challenging for us is those long-term care facilities. DHS and OHA have just come out with a plan that we will be testing all residents and staff of every long-term care facility. We've been doing that already when there are outbreaks, but now we're going to be doing that across the board before there's any cases identified. And just that's where a lot of our work is, and that's where the highest risk for death is. So those are all factors I think that go into our case counts and decisions.
Thank you, Dr.
So,
President.
Can I ask a follow? Oh, that's okay.
Go ahead. It was your question.
Because you've been involved tri-county wide, and now you're our Clackamas County, so you have a really wonderful perspective to bring to the table. So from your perspective, do we need to keep Clackamas County? Is it better for us to separate Clackamas County from the region and open more quickly, go to phase 2 more quickly? Or is it better for us to remain part of the region based on what the science is telling us at this point?
I wasn't sure you were going to ask me that because I didn't think that you would like my answer, but I am in support of a regional approach from a public health standpoint.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to support the county in whatever decisions you make, and communications to the public need to be very careful when we are in a regional healthcare system and a regional media system, and a regional disease spread system. So.
Yeah, so with that, you guys, I would be comfortable with a letter talking about funding, talking about public PSA announcements, but I'm not going to sign on to a letter that's asking us to be looked at separately from the region. I just got to follow the advice of our doctor on this.
All right, Paul.
So I just want to go over a couple of points. First of all, yeah, we did hear if we did nothing that we could get up to 1,000 cases a day by the end of the month, I believe. So we already have, the governor has done something by implementing and messaging out that face coverings will be worn in indoor places in public. And I think that's a good first step. And not allowing maybe, whatever counties to go into the next phase or wait for 21 days. I think those are good cautious steps that are sound. And if we don't hit those numbers or ideal numbers, whatever of the 6 or other factors are, then we don't. But if we do, I think that's where it becomes a little bit unique. I will say that the information I asked for last week, I believe, early last week, was to be able to parse out the data, for example, for the reasons of congregate care, for retirement centers where we are seeing an outbreak. I think that would be valuable in us and for everyone, frankly, to determine, are these isolated cases, are they random? And if it's random, it's more dangerous. If it's less random and it's more isolated and they're controlled, great. I think then I'm less nervous again as a decision maker. The other aspect is that, or question I have is, why is our 90% number 90% on the tracing? I'm just curious. I thought we were doing a good job. I thought we hired the people. Was it capacity? Is it because it's just a little glitch? But why is the contact tracing not where it's at? Because the one number that all 3 counties currently have, and this is an important factor, this morning. Thank you, Nancy, for sending me that PDF of all the counties. All 3 counties are in a downtrend on hospitalizations in the last 7 days. That's a great number. That is really the benchmark of why we're doing what we're doing. So if we are all in a downtrend, I think that's great. But why are we down on the 90% number on tracing?
Yeah, so I can address that. So that 90% number, I believe there are 2 aspects to that. I believe that it's likely lower than the actual. And that has to do with, we do have significant increased staff. We had, I believe, about 20 people start about a week ago. And so all of those people are learning this new. It's fairly specific work. And it takes some time to train them. There is one particular box that needs to be clicked in a particular field for that number to count. So I think that it's a combination of having a big increase in cases and maybe not having the capacity fully trained and staffed up to get to everybody in a timely manner. And it's a component of the training that people need to make sure that they're getting that box checked on the system for that metric to be caught. So I think some of both, but it has mostly to do with, well, it's training and capacity as we are building.
Okay.
So I'm not super surprised to see that. I think it will be up next week.
Okay, I appreciate that, because I want to make sure that wasn't an area that we would slip, because I think that tracing is incredibly important. And I am trying to be as responsible as I can be in looking at the data and trying to understand what we're doing. So I don't want to do anything irresponsible. I think that's why we put a very important component in this, and that is the worry that I see and I'm hearing is that people are not wearing masks where they ought to be wearing masks. They're not doing the social distancing where they're still doing the social distancing. It's the protests in Portland that are continuing to happen. And if it continues to happen as they promise every night, then maybe the people in Clackamas County, if they're more conservative and safe with their practices in public, we shouldn't be held down by the activities of others.
All right, I'm going to call for the question.
There is no question. We already approved it.
We did already approve it.
All we need to do is just approve the edits we advised. Nancy, you're going to make the edits.
Okay, so I'm going to call for the question, approve the edits.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to review the edits of the letter. And so, Mary, you need to poll us.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher,
No.
Commissioner Humberston,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Bernard.
No. So it's 3-2. So
Okay.
So that means the edits that Nancy has made are approved.
Correct.
So there's,
Correct.
I want to be clear, there's no additional edits to that first paragraph. Is that correct?
Well, there were going to be the edits Nancy was going to make sure that the letter did not read that we were asking to open today, right? And the other edit was to put a little bit more emphasis on that
Number
one
one.
section as far as the CARES Act funding for businesses
Okay.
that we're at a disadvantage. We need to be able to help our businesses.
Okay, so under number 1 and then the first paragraph.
Correct.
Okay.
So before I call on Ken and Martha, I just want to say, I agree with Dr. Present. I agree with the governor, and I agree with the rest of the commission chairs that moving forward, when the projections are 1,000 more a day, is dangerous. My only real issue is, if we're going to be tied together, we should get the money to help our small businesses. That's it. We should get the money, and we're not. And that's my problem with this. If we could get the money to help the small businesses and they could open the doors safely, we could probably move into phase 2, but we don't. So we're in a bad position. And so I'm hoping that you know, I'm going to ask the chairs of the committee to write a letter in support of giving Clackamas County money to help support our businesses. We're going to be tied together. We should also receive money to help support our businesses, because we are disadvantaged for that reason. And so first Martha, Ken, and then Nancy.
Well, the only way to stop this virus is to keep the economy closed down completely. Let's be honest with one another. We should be all in total lockdown. We never should have opened up even with phase 1. Okay, we're doing it because of external pressure of people getting worried, not having paychecks. We're trying to balance things. Okay, that's the reality of this. Don't fool ourselves in that somehow we have some definition of regionalism that means anything. Because in the houselessness measure that we just passed, it wasn't all of Clackamas County, it was just the urban areas. So does that mean our rural areas are outside of the region in terms of infection rates? No, we need to be consistent. My issue is an issue of consistency. If you really want to go there, I'd be willing to close down everything now, because I think people are going to die. I think it's going to get up to 1,000 a day. And I also think it's probably going to overwhelm our hospital systems potentially. But I am telling you now that our business community and other folks are pushing back on that. And we have statewide mandates, statewide policies that in my mind have not been consistent. Other people should not be in phase 2 right now if they're next to us. Marion, Yamhill, whatever, and they have been allowed to do so in an inconsistent manner. All right, if we want to close down, I'll vote yes. Because I know what this virus can do, and I can see what this virus does, and I see how dangerous it is. But if we don't have policy consistency from the state on down, we are between a rock and a hard place with this. So I want to see what a region really means, number one, because as far as I'm concerned, in other policies, half of our county's been left out completely. And number two, I really want to have our public, it's not our public health folks. I want the Oregon health, the folks at the top to tell us, stay closed down. Lives are at stake. Let's be real about this. And I am not personally seeing that happening. So you get all this total disarray of who's in phase 1, who's in phase 2, what do we do politically? Well, this is not just a political question. It is a health question. And if we were going to stay true to what we're going to do, then we should just go back. I would just say get rid of phase 1, get people to wear masks, start to enforce things, and get the money to do so. In the end, if that's what you want to do to save lives, that's what needs to happen. But it's not going to be popular. It's not going to be widely accepted. People believe that they have a right to not wear masks, but and we can't do it alone. It has to come from our colleagues at the state legislature and from the governor's office and from the Oregon Health Authority. And from my perspective, that's where the disconnect is and where it continues to be a disconnect. Anyway, once again, I'm sorry I'm ranting today. So
we have Ken, then Nancy, then Paul.
Thank you, Martha. Dr. President, I have a question for you. It seems that a significantly high percentage of the fatalities have been in care homes of one kind or another, assisted living facilities, and those kinds of things where people live together in close proximity. But unfortunately, the staff can leave the building and come back, and visitors may come in. All of those other kinds of connections to the outside world that could lead to infection. Are there any special protocols in place above and beyond what the normal business has to have that is allowed to be open right now to control that environment? I'm aware of at least one facility on the East Coast where there has been 0 infection. But the reason for that is that the staff essentially move their motorhomes and trailers, et cetera, on site, and they don't leave. Consequently, there's not an exposure to the outside world other than food being brought in, and that can be cleaned and prepared in a way that's pretty safe. So seeing as that is the most vulnerable population and where we seem to get the highest number of statistics, is this state putting any stronger protocols in place to control those environments?
So the long-term care facility plan has been more strict than that for general employers from the beginning. They have had expectations from OHA and Department of Human Services, who licenses the facilities, to do symptom checking of their staff, to have a low threshold for testing for any symptoms of staff or residents. And then we have a number of outbreaks in long-term care facilities, but the definition of an outbreak in a long-term care facility at this point is 1. So 1 case prompts an outbreak response, whereas in the past and with most diseases, it's 2 or more. So once there is a case, then more strict infection control procedures are put in place in conjunction with working with us in local public health. The Oregon Health Authority has a very specific long-term care facility team, and DHS. The cooperation between those organizations has increased. The new plan that has just been put out, which has been implemented in some places. Here it will be now that testing capacity is increased. Will include baseline testing of all residents of long-term care facilities now, and then making sure that all staff are tested at least once every 30 days. So offering testing to staff every 7 days, assuming that not every staff member is tested every 7 days, but making sure every staff member is tested at least every 30 days, so that prompt identification of asymptomatic staff members who are out in the public and that sort of thing is happening as best possible. So we are doing a lot to help protect that community. We do have one long-term care facility now where we've had several deaths that started with somebody who had very few symptoms, and once we tested everybody, we found that it had already spread throughout most of it prior to being identified. And so having this new testing plan in place, I think, is actually going to be really helpful to continue to protect that.
So commissioners, this is Gary's update, and we are taking all of his time to do this. So if you're going, I want Nancy to talk because it's probably about the letter. I don't know if it is or not, but Paul, be quick after Nancy, and nobody else.
I'm done.
So I just wanted to mention that Dr. President does have the outbreak data, and maybe she could share that with the BCC through an email if everyone would like to. That was what Commissioner Savas was asking for. Is that something she can share email?
Sure.
Okay. It's very, very preliminary, what we pull from the system, and it lags a few days as we investigate cases. But the last week, I'm just going to give you the teaser. It's been about 40% have been sporadic, 40% or 60% have been connected to a known outbreak or household.
All right, thank Paul, you. Be short, please.
Microphone.
You're on mute.
Just real quick to everyone's point, just remember that the whole thing, I'll say it again, just for clarity, is that the whole goal was to make sure when we didn't have PPE, when we didn't have all these things, we weren't ready to go into phase one as a state or any phase, right? So as we've tooled up, we're in far better condition. The other factor was, I mentioned earlier, was hospitalizations and our capacity. And so we've improved that. Our numbers are down. The infection rate for Clackamas County as of today, now, at least the numbers that are on the website, for Clackamas County is 526 total as of this whole cycle, not per day, but the entire cycle. Washington County is 950. Multnomah County is 1,632, over 3 times the amount of Clackamas County. And their numbers are growing higher at a higher rate than we are. And to the south, Marion County, 1,218. And yet ours are 526. So if we can do what Dr. President just mentioned, as far as looking at these retirement centers and the congregate care facilities and take extra precautions and do extra testing and figure out where those areas that are likely to have infection spread or rate at a fast rate, that's the strategy. I'm totally behind that. I'm totally behind the data and the science. And the goal is again, make sure we have hospital capacity. And right now it looks good, but we got to be cautious.
All right, Gary, we're going to go back to you and can finish up your administrator updates.
Thank you. So we'll get this letter out today with the edits you just approved, and we'll send you a final copy. Thank you, Nancy and Dr. President. You may go now. Go while you can. All right. Next, commissioners, another letter for you. This is what you asked this Tuesday. A letter to the governor asking to extend the eviction moratorium. We've drafted a letter for you. Staff is recommending that the letter come from the Tri-County chairs, not the Board of County Commissioners by itself, because we recommend that would have more influence if it came from the 3 Tri-County chairs. We have also heard that the governor will likely extend the eviction moratorium as part of next week's special legislative session. However, you asked for a letter and you have it in front of you. So what would you like to do next with this letter?
I'm okay with the letter because it has the emphasis on, just lost my thought.
Helping the landlords.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Helping the landlords. See, it has that emphasis on there. I do think, I don't have a problem with the chair sending it, but I do think that all 3 counties should send a letter signed by the Board of County Commissioners on that as well. So I would say all 3. So I would like to send a letter from the same letter or similar, and then and let the chairs send one that they all agree upon as well. But both.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I thought the staff did a great job with the letter with all that information and very important information and data. I appreciated reading it and having that. So thank you.
All right, let's send the letter then.
All right, so it'll be from the Board of County Commissioners and another, either the same or a slightly changed version for the chairs. Okay, got it. Thank you. The final thing I would just like to share is, again, thanks to all the staff for the budget preparation for this next fiscal year. This has been a year-long process. We started last year, July 1st, 2019. So it's almost a year process to bring you the budget you adopted today. Thank you to all the staff, especially our finance staff, led by Interim Director Elizabeth Comfort. So just thank you. It's been a year effort, and we start the next year's budget again on July 1st as well. That is my report today, Commissioners. Thank you.
All right, now we move on to Commissioner Communications, and Commissioner Fisher's up first.
Chair Bernard, as most of you know, tomorrow is Juneteenth, which is June 19th, and it marks the day of remembrance that the people of Texas were notified of their freedom 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863. There's been many, I'm sure you've seen them, many organizations coming out in support of this remembrance and this acknowledgement. And so I didn't want Clackamas County to go by without just a bit of a focus on it, because I think it's so very important when we look at the importance of the history of Black lives in America. So one little thing, and it's pretty short, and I know we're running late, but I want to read it because this was written in 1852 by Frederick Douglass, and it's about the 4th of July. So I want to just put this in context. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is your constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing or emptiness and heartless, your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery, your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgiving, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour.
Thank you.
Yep, wanted to share because it's important that we remember that the economic system of the United States was built on slavery, and we need to commemorate June 18th, which is tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul.
Yeah, two things. I just want to say that a little shout out to Elizabeth Comfort for doing so much in so little time. I want to acknowledge her hard work. You know, she came on and she's done a lot and she's trying to pull this all together. So I just want to say thank you and acknowledge again what she's done in that very short period of time. And I hope that she is with us to the point to where we get ourselves to pass a structurally sound, sustainable, balanced budget. So thank you, Elizabeth. What I did want to say with reflection, I watched last week 13. I think some of you mentioned that. I watched that, and I also watched 60 Minutes, and it talked about the event there in 1921 in Tulsa, and one of the residents in the 60-minute version, a Black American who said, I didn't even know, I lived there, I grew up there, I didn't even know about that. So it was a stunning story in 60 Minutes. I would advise that if you can find that, to watch that 60-minute version of that. That was fascinating. But I in reflection of the last few weeks of all of this, and you know, my experiences and experiences of my friends, and I was struck by the 1921 date, because in the early 1914, 1915 through 1922, the villages where my family came from, on both sides of my family in Turkey, which there was a Greek community that was there for hundreds of years, but they were basically because of religion primarily, not because of skin color, even though there was a mixture of that as well. But for religion purposes, they were being exiled, and they were, it was mass genocide. And the number wasn't anywhere near as large as the 6 million figures, 6 million people, the Jews who lost their lives in the 1940s. But still, 350 to 500,000 people were killed, Greeks that were killed in that same period of time. And just striking, just to fathom that kind of inhumane activity, and to just know that at that period of time, that all these things were happening around the world. It's just striking, absolutely, just mind-boggling. It's very, very sad. And I was, again, really taken aback by the thing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, just stunned by that how that went down in more detail, frankly, than in some ways, and had some points that maybe that 13 didn't cover. But as a kid who experienced that very time in which the Watts riots broke out in 1965, I kind of mentioned that last week, and the Rodney King thing, a number of things that happened in the area that I grew up in, it's a very sad time. I had thought mistakenly from the period of time in my life that we had really made huge gains in racial injustice and that we've actually become more acceptant as a society, but it's still there. And I think that's the sad part. It actually is, it's still there for some. And I know a lot of people have made a lot of adjustments. A lot of people have learned, and a lot of people have accepted and so on. But it's just sad that we're at this point in time today that so many things are coming to the surface. But the upside is, I think the upside is that this is a significant event. The movement that's there can, I think, can do some great work and to help repair and to remedy some of the structural things that are in place to make it a safer, fairer place to live. So thank you for giving me that time.
Chair Bernard, whoever, let's see, whoever would like to go next for Commissioner Communications.
Shoot, Ken, my mic was on. Ken, your mic.
Thank you. In reflecting on the same issues that my colleagues have been reflecting on, it comes to mind what the philosopher Santayana said, that those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. So in that spirit, I'd just like to quote a couple of things from history. When you hear that the Civil War was simply a war between the states for states' rights, it is not true. There were 17 letters written by the South Carolina legislature to the federal government, and the very specific reasons for the war was slavery. And the intention was to continue that horrible institution. The second little piece of history is the Emancipation Proclamation. As glorious a document as that was, it actually freed no one. For it stated that the slaves in the North were free, and they already were. That those in Northern occupied territories were free, and they already were. And that those in the South were free, and they were not until many people died in the name of ending slavery in the South. So keep that history in mind, and also remember that we are doomed to repeat our history if we don't study it and understand the causes of the decisions that were made in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha.
Microphone.
I said I'll fast forward into the 21st century with some of these comments because I've been reading a book. It's a National Book Award winner, and it's called Stamped from the Beginning, The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America. And it is by a Black historian who was at American University, has since moved to Brown University. His name is Abram X. Kendi. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. And he is now actually the guy who is heading the Center for Anti-Racist Research at Brown, and he's also a Harvard Fellow. And I was reading, as I read through this book, which I think is going to be very informative in terms of the historical context of racism, he gave a definition of racism, which I think is really excellent. And he said, it is any concept that regards one racial group as inferior or superior to another racial group in any way. I defined anti-Black racist ideas, the subject of this book, as any idea suggesting that Black people or any group of Black people are inferior in any way to another racial group. Like the other identifiable races, Black people are in reality a collection of groups differentiated by gender, class, ethnicity, sexuality, culture, skin color, profession, and nationality. Among a series of other identifiers, including biracial people who may or may not identify as Black. Each and every identifiable Black group has been subjected to what the critical race theorist Kimberly Crenshaw has called intersectionality, prejudice stemming from the intersections of racist ideas and other forms of bigotry. So it's a bit of an intellectual book. He is now, I think, being considered one of the foremost speakers and researchers dealing with the context of slavery as we know it, the concept of racism. And I would strongly suggest that if people have a chance to download this book, that they get a hold of it, because I think it is an eye-opener for all of us. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm just going to be really brief. I mean, there's so much going on. You know, when I think about Black Lives Matter, I wonder, it seems that no life matters when people are murdered in war. Governments try to take over other countries and murder everybody. I remember a few years ago when it was all video games are causing all this. Well, it appears that life does not matter at all. And the sad part is that some people's lives, other people think don't matter even less than not at all. And it's sad, but I gotta say that last week we spoke with a number of folks about how Clackamas County should address this issue of Black Lives Matter, and I learned a lot. There's the tough conversations need to take place. I know Gary is doing that, and very proud that our administrator has stepped up and is really addressing our concerns. And I hope that we will too. When we took a break, I went downstairs and I ran into a woman in the hall who will be on the phone call this afternoon, and asked, when are the commissioners going to do this? And I said, well, Gary asked that he do this first, and then we will have the opportunity to do it. You know, we're all blind to the racism that occurs around here. It does occur. And it's time we step up and eliminate, not only here at Clackamas County, the offices of Clackamas County, but in Clackamas County, and frankly, in the state, the nation, and the world. So thank you all very much for your hard work and dedication for this long day. And let's make life matter again. And yours all matter to me. And thank you all very much. And with that, we are adjourned.